Chapter 119. Ma'am, Yang called. Su Qianxi was dazed, walked over, and frowned. How did you know I was here? Yang blinked his eyes with a, you know what I mean, expression on his face. Needless to say, it must be Li Xicheng. Frowning, Su Qianxi looked dissatisfied. She had just left school, and she had never told anyone that she was here. How did he follow her? She felt like she was being followed. Fortunately, Li Xicheng was on a business trip and would not be back for another 7 or 8 days. Now, only Yang saw her with Luihan. Otherwise, if Li Xicheng saw them together, he might not know what to think. Thinking about it, Su Qianxi said, "Don't tell him that I met Luihan today." Hearing this, Yang's expression became a little strange. He blinked his eyes as if he was trying to signal her with his eyes. Su Qianxi's heart skipped a beat, not knowing if it was her illusion. Just as she finished speaking, a dangerous aura instantly spread out. What? Something to hide? A low, cold voice came from the back seat of the car, with a strong depression, as if from the ancient hell, and Su Qianxi's face suddenly changed. It was him. He was back. She quickly turned her head and looked at the back seat. However, from her angle, she could not see through it. "Qianqian, let's go." Luihan urged her, but Su Qianxi clearly felt that the air seemed to be even colder. The window of the back seat was rolled down, and Li Xicheng's profile appeared in front of Su Qianxi. Li Xicheng looked sideways and narrowed his eyes. "Where are you going?" Inexplicably, Su Qianxi felt uneasy. She said that just to make Li Xicheng not think too much. However, she did not expect that the guy was sitting quietly in the back seat. In this way, she could not explain herself even if she had 10 mouths. When she was thinking about how to explain, she suddenly thought of him and Tang Menjing panting like crazy last night. Last night, he was still having sex with Tang Menjing, and today he came back to Kingstown to follow her? Haha, he was so strong. The tension in her heart subsided, and the trace of guilt and uneasiness that she had felt just now completely disappeared. Facing his threatening gaze, she smiled and said, "I'm going to dinner. Mr. Li, are you interested in joining us?" Her smile was as bright as a flower. The moment it appeared, it stole his eyes. However, Li Xicheng's eyes were colder. He thought she would give him an explanation. As long as it was reasonable, he would consider forgiving her. However, how could she so blatantly admit to him that she wanted to have dinner with Luihan? "I made dinner at home. But I have an appointment with a friend." She looked down at her watch. "Sorry, he has been waiting for me for a long time. Mr. Li, I'm leaving." With that, he really turned around and left. Li Xicheng's originally cold and calm eyes were gradually filled with a bit of anger. This woman. What did she mean by that? Now, she didn't even want to pretend anymore. Su Qianxi. He couldn't help but say, suppressing his anger. "Get in the car. I said I have something to do." Su Qianxi looked a bit cold, looking cold and distant. "Bye." Luihan clearly saw the change in Su Qianxi's expression and was dazed. Cold, extremely cold. Luihan had never seen Su Qianxi look like this. He couldn't help glancing at Meibaduo and immediately saw Li Xicheng, who also looked gloomy. Did the couple have a fight? Could it be that he had become a cannon fodder again? Chapter 120. Seeing Li Xicheng's cold gaze, Luihan slightly shrank his head. Looking at Su Qianxi's cold face, Luihan thought for a second and said, "Why don't you go back with Mr. Li? We can have dinner another day." "It's okay." Su Qianxi smiled. "It's okay. Mr. Li likes this kind of game, so he won't mind at all, right?" In her words, there was a hidden meaning. Her beautiful eyes wandered on Li Xicheng's face, full of meaning. Then she opened the door of Luihan's car and got in. Luihan saw that Li Xicheng's face looked even worse and felt very uneasy. It seemed that he had run into something big again. First, Su Qianxi inexplicably talked to him about investment, and then she was so blatantly throwing Li Xiqing's face away. It would be weird if it was not a fight. Luihan felt a bit sad to have such a friend. However, for the good life of his friend, Luihan still looked at Li Xiqing coldly and said, "I will help you talk to her." However, when Li Xiqing heard that, his hand on the door clenched into a fist. His veins bulged and he punched the door hard. Yang was startled. He had never seen Li Xiqing like this. What was going on? "Let's go home." Yang hesitated. "How about we go with Mrs. Li?" "Don't make me say it again." Yang shivered, immediately turned the steering wheel, and drove in the direction of home. When they got home after dinner, it was already past 8 p.m. Luihan was very good at making small talk. Su Qianxi's bad mood had become a lot better. However, no matter how good her mood was, when she saw her cheating husband when she got home, her mood instantly plummeted. Seeing Li Xiqing sitting on the sofa in the living room, Su Qianxi's soft expression suddenly became cold. Li Xiqing clearly saw her expression. The anger that he had been suppressing all day was suddenly ignited. This woman was really different when she was with Luihan than when she was with him. Was she that impatient to be with him? As if she did not see him, she walked past him and went upstairs. Li Xiqing clenched his fists and angrily threw the files in his hand, making a loud noise. She was startled, but she still straightened her back and walked to her room on the second floor. She liked him. She loved him. However, she was not cheap. Such a man, what she can do now is to stay away. Seeing that Su Qianxi was indifferent, Li Xiqing felt like there was a fire in his heart. This woman, Li Xiqing had never been treated like this in his entire life. However, it was precisely at times like this that Li Xiqing was able to remain calm. He sat down again, took out a cigarette, and slowly lit it. He said in a deep voice, "I've said it before. It's not that I don't allow you to make friends, but don't go too far." Su Qianxi paused and sneered, "Shouldn't you be self-disciplined before you try to control others? If he can't even control himself, what right does he have to control me?" Li Xiqing paused. What did she mean? Besides, it is clearly stated in the divorce contract that we will not interfere in each other's private lives. Mr. Li, aren't you being a busybody? Chapter 121. Li Xiqing's fingers holding the cigarette slightly closed. The fragile cigarette was twisted and broken at that moment. Not interfering with each other's private life? Suddenly, the phone on the table rang. It was Cheng Yu. "Boss, the set of jewelry you ordered is ready. If everything goes well, you can receive it on your wife's birthday next month." "Okay," Li Xiqing responded casually. Cheng Yu could tell that Li Xiqing was no longer interested in ordering this set of jewelry. Feeling a bit scared, Cheng Yu tentatively asked, "Do you want to see the design?" "It's up to you." "Okay." Cheng Yu felt even more strange. Although Li Xiqing was busy a few days ago, he was still very concerned about this matter. Why did he suddenly change his mind? "I think it's pretty good. Let's get to work." "Okay." Hanging up the phone, Li Xiqing leaned on the sofa and blew out a long smoke ring. The soft and warm light of the lamp fell on him, making his deep and cold eyes even deeper. Thinking about it, he sent a text message to Cheng Yu. "Send me the design." In addition to going to class, Su Qianxi practiced with Luihan every day. In the beginning, Luihan was completely shocked by her well-practiced business ideas. From the beginning, he thought that Su Qianxi just wanted to get by and get shares. In the end, their admiration and respect for her could be said to be endless like a surging river. Su Qianxi was not arrogant in the face of his compliments. After all, she had lived 5 years longer than him. However, in the next half a month, Su Qianxi did not see Li Xiqing at home. Originally, she was afraid that when she saw him, she could not help but think too much. However, she found that she would think even more when she did not see him. Forget it, it was no big deal. When the Cold War lasted for more than 20 days, she received a call from Captain Li. "Grandpa? Qianqian, have you eaten?" "Yes." Oh, did you and Sicheng quarrel recently? Su Qianxi heard that and replied, no. Really? I really didn't. Who told you? Oh, I heard from Nanny Rong that the boy hasn't stayed at home for almost 2 months. I didn't say anything when he went on a business trip in August, but I heard that he has been staying in a hotel this month. He almost wants to stay here for a long time. You still want to lie to me? Hearing Captain Li's reproachful tone, Su Qianxi suddenly felt sad. Whether it was her previous life or this life, her grandfather was the only elder who loved and cared for her. He was also the only role model that she could rely on and respect. However, she still denied, no, we did not fight. So that brat bullied you? Grandpa, it's not like that. Maybe Nanny Rong misunderstood. We are very close. You still want to protect that kid? Forget it, the school is closed for the National Day holiday, right? What's the plan? Not at the moment. How about going to play with Grandpa? Su Qianxi was dazed, and her expression immediately became strange. She asked, you want to play? Chapter 122. An eye-opener? Captain Li Sun had never been to the Maldives. She did not believe it. However, she could not say that out loud. She hesitated. Well, you don't want to go with me because I'm an old man? Captain Li sighed. I'm getting old. Even my granddaughter-in-law doesn't want to go with me. I don't, Su Qianxi quickly retorted. That's settled then. Don't go back on your word. Su Qianxi was speechless. Why did she feel that he was the one who would go back on his word? After hanging up, someone knocked on the door. It was Nanny Rong. Dinner is ready. Okay, I'll go down later. When she opened the door, she saw Nanny Rong was still standing at the door. This is for you. Nanny Rong handed her a small envelope. Su Qianxi looked down and took it out. It was a photo. In the photo, an elegant white grand piano was placed under layers of wisteria. Golden sunlight shone through the gaps of the wisteria, decorating the piano with bits of gold. A girl in white was sitting in front of the piano, playing with her eyes down. Her face was wet. Behind the girl was a tall and sturdy figure. His expression was, Su Qianxi saw the man's expression and saw some softness on his face. It was completely different from his usual coldness. Was it her illusion? You took this? Nanny Rong nodded and said, in fact, Mr. Li is not as cold as he looks. I raised him since he was a child, and I know him too well. He doesn't say it, but he has already approved of you. Su Qianxi was dazed by Nanny Rong's words. Seeing her change, Nanny Rong thought that she had understood and continued, there is nothing between a husband and wife that can't be reconciled. Talk to Mr. Li and ask him to move back here. It's not appropriate for him to live in a hotel every day without anyone to take care of him. Don't blame me for being talkative. In fact, Sir's temper is very good. Although he doesn't like to talk to people, he won't do anything excessive to anyone. I believe that there is a reason for everything he does. Don't argue with Mr. anymore. I feel uncomfortable seeing you like this. Nanny Rong said earnestly, I'm going to retire in a few years, and I wanted to help you take care of the kids for a few years. Aren't you making me worry for nothing? Su Qianxi's eyes looked down, and a bitter smile appeared on her lips. What Nanny Rong said made sense. But she didn't know. She didn't know anything at all. This time, it wasn't her fault. The phone call that night was like a thorn in her flesh. He wanted to pull it out, but he couldn't. Not to mention the disgust, there were also bursts of pain from time to time. I know, Nanny Rong. Hey, I called Sir, but he didn't come back today. That's why I called old Mister. Don't blame me for being nosy. I'm doing this for your own good. That's fine. Thank you, Nanny Rong. Seeing Su Qianxi's perfunctory attitude, Nanny Rong was exasperated. Well, at 9 o'clock in the evening, Su Qianxi took a shower and walked out of the living room. Before taking a shower, she was discussing the direction of the new project with Luihan. The computer was still on the interface of the chat box. However, now it was on the desktop. Someone had touched her computer. At this time, Nanny Rong had already gotten off work. There could be no one else at home except her. Her heart seemed to be in her throat, and her hair stood on end. Chapter 123. This thought made Su Qianxi vigilant. Suddenly, there was a slight noise from the kitchen. It was very light, but it was real. Su Qianxi's heart was in her throat. Quietly, she went to the table and took her phone. She pressed the 3 numbers that people were familiar with and went to the kitchen. However, before she walked in, a meat wall suddenly appeared in front of her. Su Qianxi was startled and took a step back. However, she was too fast and tripped over her right foot, falling backward. Just when she thought she was going to fall miserably, the meat wall in front of her immediately moved. Su Qianxi's arm was grabbed and pulled up. She fell steadily on a broad chest. The familiar scent that she had not seen for a long time came into her nose, and her heart couldn't help but race. When he raised his eyes, he found himself in a pitch-black sea of stars. So deep, so thick, her heart continued to race, but she quickly recovered and pushed the man in front of her away. Suppressing the uncontrollable panic in her heart, she quickly looked away and asked awkwardly, "You? When did you come back?" Seeing that she seemed to be frightened, Li Xiqing suddenly wanted to ravage her. An indescribable fire burst from his lower abdomen and went straight to the bottom of his heart. Reaching out, he loosened his collar. She seemed to still smell the fragrance of the shower, and her unique scent lingered for a long time. His heart that had been calm and cold for a long time was a little restless. She had just drunk water, but she was still so thirsty. Ignoring her question, Li Xiqing turned to open the fridge again, poured himself a large glass of ice water, and drank it up. Su Qianxi felt a little empty and a little disappointed. However, she had expected it, hadn't she? Turning around, she went back to the computer and remembered something. Li Xiqing had just touched her computer. She turned her head and was about to question him when she realized that he was walking towards her. He lowered his eyes to glance at her computer screen, but he quickly shifted his gaze away and said calmly, "Shouldn't you fulfill your duties as a wife?" Hearing that, Su Qianxi was dazed. He abruptly turned his head to look at Zhang Xian, his eyes filled with shock and disbelief. Li Xiqing's eyes were calm. When he met her gaze, his eyes seemed to become deeper, flickering with some unknown meaning. Seeing that he did not seem to be joking at all, she became a bit nervous. "Li Xiqing, the contract says that you can't force me to do that with you unless both parties are willing." "That? Which one?" Li Xiqing raised an eyebrow, his eyes cold and filled with confusion. Seeing him being so serious, she felt a bit guilty. Why did his expression make it seem as though she was asking him to fulfill his marital obligations? Li Xiqing looked calm as usual. Glancing at her slightly shocked expression, he said seriously, "I just asked you to cook." "What are you thinking?" Cook?" Li Xiqing didn't think there was anything wrong with what she said. Raising an eyebrow, he asked, "Do you think, do what?" "Sex." Su Qianxi waited for him to continue and subconsciously held her breath. "Isn't food your duty as a wife?" Hearing that, she was dazed. Then, Su Qianxi's face suddenly turned red, and the heat spread from the tip of her ears to the base of her neck. Chapter 124. Su Qianxi's face suddenly turned red, and the heat spread from the tip of her ears to the base of her neck. Yes, he was talking about the duty of a wife, not the duty of a couple. At first, she did not hear the difference. Oh. So embarrassing. "I've lost my face to the Pacific Ocean." With a strong regret, Su Qianxi felt extremely embarrassed at the moment. When she looked up again, she saw his calm and cold eyes. In the bottom of her eyes that she could not see, the coldness that had not changed for thousands of years suddenly melted. Li Xiqing clearly noticed her embarrassment. Staring at her little face that was obviously so embarrassed that she wanted to die, he stood behind the sofa and slightly leaned toward her. Seeing his tall figure suddenly leaning toward her, Su Qianxi was dazed. Staring at his handsome face, she forgot to move. His handsome eyebrows were slightly raised, and his voice was deep and slightly sexy. It was like a heavy cello playing beside her ear, ringing in her ear. "You think I want to say sex?" Su Qianxi's head suddenly buzzed. She suddenly stood up from the sofa and covered his mouth to stop him from saying anything. Before Li Xiqing finished his words, his mouth was covered. He had never been treated like this. This woman was getting bolder and bolder. However, in front of him, the pair of bright black eyes seemed to be shouting, "Don't say it, don't say it." The soft and fragrant sensation on his lips made it seem as though she was openly asking for a kiss. Tightly pressed against his lips, every corner of his body was inseparable from hers. His eyes became darker and darker. Su Qianxi looked into his eyes, wishing she could find a hole to hide in and never come out again. Would he think she was a slut? Would he think that he wanted to do that with her? Ah! She had never been so embarrassed. This feeling was incredible. But soon, she realized that she had actually covered his mouth with her hand. Her heart skipped a beat. She quickly took her hand back, too nervous to know where to put it. OMG. This world was too crazy. Li Xiqing hated it the most when someone touched him, especially his face and head. And now, she had actually done such a heaven-defying thing. Under his intense gaze, Su Qianxi blushed and said nervously, I'll go make something for you to eat." After saying that, he took a step forward and ran into the kitchen as if he was escaping. Li Xiqing watched her run away. His lips, which had been sealed for a long time, slightly curled up, but it was fleeting. She retracted her gaze and looked at the computer screen that had been lit up all along. She logged onto her most commonly used social media account ID. Thousands of Su Ci. It was indeed a good name. There were not many things left in the fridge. Because Li Xiqing was not there, there were only some eggs and millet that could be stored. Thinking about it, she cooked some millet porridge with a side dish and put it on the table. Li Xiqing had already showered. Seeing this simple supper, he sat down. I'll go back to my room first. Enjoy your meal. Wait. Su Qianxi paused and froze. Chapter 125. Hearing that, Su Qianxi turned around. Coincidentally, the man behind her also looked over at the same time. Their eyes met. That pair of black eyes were ice-cold, deep, and bottomless. Just looking at her quietly made Su Qianxi feel a sense of cold oppression. "It's about the divorce." The low voice came again. Divorce, these two words, which he hadn't heard for a long time, suddenly entered his ears. Su Qianxi's heart was in a mess at that moment. What did he want? Early divorce? Facing his threatening eyes, Su Qianxi suddenly felt a bit embarrassed. His heart was filled with grievance and panic. In an instant, it was overflowing. Now, he was not even willing to lie to Grandpa. Was he so eager to be with Tang Menjing that he wanted to break up with her? His calmness reminded her of the scene in her previous lifetime when he asked her to sign the divorce agreement. Divorce. Just 3 words, but they were the last words he said to her in her previous lifetime. Looking at his serious and cold eyes, Su Qianxi seemed to see him 5 years later. Cold and decisive. Her eyes wet, Su Qianxi turned around and said in a low voice, "I have nothing to talk to you about." Walking quickly to the sofa, she was about to put away her computer and go upstairs when he said, "Stop." His voice was a bit low and dissatisfied. Su Qianxi paused, but soon went to the coffee table and put away her computer. Turning a deaf ear to what he said, she walked toward the stairs. If it were before, she might have stopped. But now, why should she listen to him? "If you take one more step," he said coldly, "you can forget about the company." Su Qianxi paused and suddenly turned around. "How did you know?" Hearing that, there seemed to be a hint of sarcasm in his eyes. Do you think you can hide what I want to know from me? Su Qianxi suddenly felt a chill down her spine. Incredulously, she asked, you spied on me? Seeing her stop, Li Xiqing looked satisfied and did not deny it. Glancing at the seat opposite him, he ordered coldly, sit down. After that, he leisurely picked up a pair of chopsticks and elegantly began to eat. Looking at his elegant look, Su Qianxi felt a chill in her heart. This man had been spying on her. It seemed like he didn't care about her, but in fact, she had always been living under his watch. This sort of thing was terrifying to think about. That's right, how could she forget? It was Li Xiqing. Before the age of 26, he had single-handedly made a name for himself in Kingstown. He had even brought his company to international heights before the age of 30. What else could such a man not do? Frozen for a moment, she turned and walked toward him. However, every step was extremely difficult. She didn't want to talk to him. She didn't want a divorce now. No matter how much he hated her, no matter how much he wanted to be with Tang Menjing, she would take the title of Mrs. Li. And Tang Menjing could only be a mistress. Before she completely destroyed Tang Menjing, she would not divorce. It was time to put the plan to destroy Tang Menjing on the agenda. However, this was definitely not the time. But now, what about her company? What about Louis Han's company? Chapter 126. When she was still hesitating, her lower abdomen suddenly twitched, as if a nerve was suddenly twitching, and her face suddenly paled. It hurt, something was clearly dripping down, and Su Qianxi immediately understood what was going on. Since the miscarriage, she had not had her period. Could it be, what a coincidence? However, it hurt so much. With a pale face, Su Qianxi slowly squatted down and put the computer in her hands on the ground. Cold sweat appeared on her forehead. At the dinner table, Li Xiqing was slowly eating the porridge she made herself, looking elegant and noble. A small bowl of millet porridge was quickly finished. However, just as he finished a bowl of porridge, Su Qianxi had not come over yet. Li Xiqing looked dissatisfied. Looking up, he found that the woman did not look very good. What's wrong? Li Xiqing saw that she was obviously not right, frowned, put down the bowl of porridge, and walked over. Nothing. Don't come over. Su Qianxi waved her hand, but the continuous pain made her feel uncomfortable. However, Li Xiqing had already squatted down and reached out to touch her forehead. It's so cold. Are you sick? Su Qianxi shook her head again and again. I'm fine. You don't have to worry about me. Although she said that, she felt that she was about to collapse. She had to go back to the room to find something to cushion herself, but, seeing his slightly nervous and confused face, Su Qianxi breathed even more quickly. She did not look very good. Feeling a little embarrassed, she whispered, "Can you stay away for a while? I may have that." Li Xiqing was dazed for a second, but he quickly realized what she was talking about. There was a rare trace of embarrassment on his face. However, seeing her obviously not good face, he frowned. Does it hurt a lot? Let me help you. No, turn around. Don't look at me. Li Xiqing saw her shyness, stood up, and turned his back to her. Seeing his back, Su Qianxi let out a sigh of relief. Resisting the sharp pain in her lower abdomen, she stood up. However, before she stood up, she suddenly blacked out and fell to the side without warning. The sound of someone falling made him quickly look back. At a glance, he saw Su Qianxi, who had fainted on the ground and was shocked. He immediately squatted down and gently patted her face. Su Qianxi. So cold. Her body looked as if it was soaked in water. Cold sweat flowed continuously, and it was frighteningly cold. What the hell? Wasn't he here for that? Wasn't that normal for women? But why did she feel like she was about to die? Suddenly feeling empty, he immediately picked her up, strode out, and took her to the hospital. She was sent to the emergency department in the middle of the night, only to find out that she had fainted because she was on her period. The doctor on duty seemed a little impatient. "Who are you to her?" "Husband." "Husband? Is she still like this even though she's married?" Li Xiqing was wearing casual home clothes, and his clothes and pants were stained with blood. Facing the doctor's question, he pursed his lips and said nothing. It was the first time for him to see a woman having that kind of thing. He had no experience at all. The doctor pursed his lips and said as he prescribed the medicine, "In this case, it's either too much sex or too little sex. Young people should pay more attention. All right, go home after the drip and pay the bill." Chapter 127. For more than a month, it was rare for Qingyu to get off the morning shift. She was going to take a shower and have a good sleep. However, with a call from her big boss, she had to go to the hospital to deliver clothes to the boss's wife. What a tough life. When she arrived, Li Xiqing was accompanying Su Qianxi to get in 4 drip. One was lying down pretending to be dead, and the other was sitting pretending to be cool. They were speechless, and the atmosphere was a bit cold. Qingyu blinked, seeing the subtle atmosphere, and awkwardly put the clothes on the side of Su Qianxi's bed. Li Xiqing glanced at a pack of tampons in the bag, pursed his lips, and stood up from the chair. "Help her change." After saying that, he walked out. Qingyu looked at his back and suddenly felt a bit funny. In the middle of the night, her big boss was sent to the hospital by his wife and was covered in blood. If such news got out, she didn't know what people would write. However, the boss's wife was really lucky. Qingyu felt a little envious, but she still took out the clothes and said, "I went to buy clothes in the middle of the night. Fortunately, I found a shop that was not closed. I just bought it casually. Just wear it." "Thank you. It's so troublesome." Su Qianxi was a bit embarrassed and looked much better than before. "He asked you to come so late at night. This guy is really, he did not care about her at all." "It's okay. I'm used to it." Qingyu looked bitter and glanced at the 4 drip. "The water is out. I'll help you get changed." "No, I'll do it myself." After changing clothes and walking out again, it was already 1 o'clock in the morning. Li Xiqing saw that her clothes were obviously a size bigger, and his lips were even more straight. He looked at Qingyu, who followed him. Qingyu quickly waved her hand and looked wronged. "I didn't know what size she wore, so I bought it according to my own size." Who knew she was so thin? Besides, he was the one who did not even tell her his wife's size. He was the one who was abnormal. Hearing that, Li Xiqing accepted this reason. With his hands in his pocket, he walked in front. "Let's go." Although Su Qianxi was on the 4 drip, her lower abdomen still hurt. Along the way, he walked faster with Qingyu's help. However, when she got home and got out of the car, she felt a bit weak. He bent his waist and took small steps forward. His face was so pale that it looked a little green. Walking behind her, Li Xiqing frowned and strode forward, reaching out and carrying her in his arms. Su Qianxi was shocked and exclaimed, wrapping her arms around his neck. Li Xiqing's body stiffened slightly. Looking down, he saw her obviously frightened eyes. Like a little deer that was being bullied. He strode back to his house. At the door, she became a bit naughty and struggled to get down. "I can walk by myself." "Open the door." Li Xiqing ignored her and said. His voice was a bit low, and she clearly sensed his unhappiness. Consciously closing her mouth, she entered the password and opened the door. As soon as he entered the door, he carried her up to the 2nd floor, sent her to her room, and put her on the bed. Finally lying down again, she felt comfortable and exhaled. "Thank you for today." He glanced at her coldly and walked out, closing the door behind him. Damn it, he should have checked the almanac before coming back. Chapter 128. When Su Qianxi slept, she still felt very uncomfortable in the first half of the night. But in the latter half of the night, the throbbing pain in her lower abdomen seemed to be covered by a warm sensation. It was as if a heat pack had been placed on her lower abdomen, and the pain gradually lessened. Gradually, she fell into a comfortable sleep. When she woke up the next day, it was already past 8 a.m. Seeing this time, Su Qianxi immediately perked up and bounced up. That was it. Today was Abbess Miju's class, and attendance would be called. If she was found to have skipped class, then, the consequences would be serious. She hurriedly got up. Her lower abdomen was much better than last night, but it still hurt. She hurriedly changed her clothes. Before she finished washing up, Nanny Rong had made her brown sugar water and brought it to her. Don't worry. Mr. Li has already asked for leave for you. Su Qianxi was dazed. Where is he? He's at work, but I just asked him. He will be back after work. Okay. Hearing that he had already asked for leave, Su Qianxi was not so nervous and slowed down. After drinking the brown sugar water, she lay on the bed again. Could you stand? Su Qianxi fell asleep again, and when she woke up, it was already past noon. After a simple meal, she turned on the computer and entered the most commonly used chat tool. Louis Han had indeed sent the plan over, and the file was waiting to be accepted. However, what attracted Su Qianxi's attention was a verification message. System, user L requests to add you as a friend. L. What the hell? She clicked on the information, and the profile picture was blank. There was only a simple letter in the username, and the rest of the information was blank. However, the account registration time showed that it was 8 years ago. Thinking about it, Su Qianxi still clicked accept and then went to read the document sent by Louis Han. Halfway through, another message popped up, wanting, Su Qianxi, are you there? It was from Lin Wanting. Su Qianxi saw her name and felt it had been a long time. Since the last incident, she had heard about what happened to her. It was very miserable, but she deserved it. Seeing the 4 words that she had sent, he still replied, yes. Wanting, give me your account number, and I will pay you back. Wanting, where did you get the money? Wanting, I am getting married. Don't you know? Su Qianxi, wanting, it's all thanks to you, haha. If it wasn't for you, how could I have married into the Ding clan? Thanks to you, I married Ding Haibao. If it wasn't for me, you'd be ruined. Shouldn't you be grateful to me? You may have destroyed me, but I still have to tell you. My wedding is on the 10th of next month. Be sure to come. Where is he? Su Qianxi, Lin Wanting said a lot, but she could feel that every word was full of resentment. Wanting, you don't dare to face me? He Su Qianxi, Yaoyan, do you know how to write it? You can save the hundreds of thousands for your medical expenses. I heard that Ding Haibo really knows how to have fun. If I don't give you money when the time comes, you won't even have money for medical treatment. Hearing this, Lin Wanting's face changed dramatically. She slammed the keyboard and said angrily, bitch. Holding the pen next to his hand, he fiercely inserted it into a photo on the table. The place where the pen was inserted happened to be Su Qianxi's face. However, Lu Ainan looked even worse than her. Chapter 129. Closing the chat with Lin Wanting, Su Qianxi collapsed on the bed again. Li Xiqing came home very early today, arriving at home before 4 p.m. Nanny Rong was pleasantly surprised to see him walk into Su Qianxi's bedroom and quietly clean it. Su Qianxi's door was not locked, so Li Xiqing easily opened the door and walked in. He found that the little woman had fallen asleep again. Her 2 slim legs were clamping the quilt, and she was curled up, breathing evenly. Half of her body was exposed. Her thin white nightdress was pulled up to her thighs, faintly revealing her white panties. It looked sweet and seductive. Her fair skin was enough to give people a huge visual impact. Li Xiqing paused, walked up, and pulled the quilt for her. Gently lifting her legs, he wanted to pull the quilt over her, but obviously, Su Qianxi was not so cooperative. Feeling that someone was going to take the quilt from her, she moaned and hugged him tighter. Thinking that she was going to wake up, Li Xiqing paused and held his breath. The person in the bed did not notice that someone had sneaked into the room. Holding the quilt, she was sleeping soundly, breathing evenly and steadily. Seeing that she had fallen asleep again, Li Xiqing let out a sigh of relief. When he came back to himself, he found that there was a thin layer of cold sweat on his forehead. Damn it! He had entered his wife's room, but why did he feel like he was a thief? Feeling a bit upset, Li Xiqing gave up on the idea of tucking her in. Seeing her sleeping so soundly, he naturally thought of the embarrassing scene when he carried her to the hospital last night. For no reason, he had a ball of anger in his heart. He simply sat on the edge of her bed and reached out to push her. Get up. Su Qianxi was sleeping soundly. Being pushed, she opened her eyes in a daze. The first thing she saw when she opened her eyes was Li Xiqing's cold face. It was as if a cold current had suddenly hit her face, and she felt refreshed. But soon, she realized her position. One leg was curled on the quilt. From Li Xiqing's point of view, quickly taking her legs back, she was completely awake. She pulled the quilt back and shouted with a red face, "When did you come in? This is my room." Seeing her reaction, Li Xiqing pursed his lips and said calmly, "Everything in the villa belongs to me." Su Qianxi paused. It seemed that it was true, but this is my room. When you came in, you should have knocked first. Yes, Li Xiqing responded and looked at her coldly. But you are also mine, aren't you? Hearing that, Su Qianxi felt like she had been struck by lightning. Seeing her dumbfounded look, Li Xiqing was a bit unhappy. At least for now. Looking at his calm face, she almost thought that she had heard wrongly. Hearing it again, her heart skipped a beat, but she quickly regained her composure. What he meant was that she was now his wife. But soon, it would no longer be the case. Also, there were less than 9 months left. Wash up and go back to the old house. It was a completely commanding tone. Go back for what? My brother is back. Last time, you weren't here. You're going back now. Let him have a look at you. Last time? When was that? When you were in the hospital. Oh. Thinking of the child who died before she had time to find out, Su Qianxi's eyes dimmed. I know. Li Xiqing gave her a deep look, feeling inexplicably bitter. In fact, as long as you want, we can have more. However, she and Luihan were so in love. Chapter 130. When she came out of the bathroom, it was already 20 minutes later. Because she was going back to the old house to meet the elders, and she was not feeling well, she chose a casual pantsuit, which looked conservative and youthful. Seeing Su Qianxi in this outfit, Nanny Rong was amazed and exclaimed, "A good-looking person can look good in anything." What do you think, sir? Li Xiqing was sitting on the sofa. Hearing Nanny Rong's voice, he turned his head. When he saw her outfit, he was dazed for a moment. However, he quickly looked away, placed the newspaper in his hand on the coffee table, and walked towards the door with a faint nod. Su Qianxi was not surprised by his attitude. She stuck her tongue out at Nanny Rong and said, "Nanny Rong, if there's nothing else, please go back. We may not be back so soon." "Yes, ma-am." Nanny Rong watched the couple go out with a smile and quickly went upstairs to tidy up Su Qianxi's room. As soon as she entered the room, she saw Su Qianxi's laptop on the side of the pillow. She couldn't help sighing and shaking her head. How can you put the laptop on the pillow? The radiation is too strong. Closing the laptop, she opened the drawer of the bedside table. When she was about to put it in, she saw a translucent file lying quietly in it. Curiously, he craned his neck and vaguely saw 4 words, "Divorce contract." When she got back to the Li family's house, it was almost 6 p.m., time for dinner. Qin Shuhua was sitting next to a tall, muscular man. They were looking at a photo album and laughing happily at each other. "Mom, brother." Li Xiqing greeted them and looked back at Su Qianxi. This was the first time in her life that she had seen her brother-in-law, and she felt a bit nervous. Because he looked similar to Li Xicheng, but his temperament was much softer. In her previous life, she had only met him twice and had dinner with him twice. She was in awe and adoration of this young military uncle. If Li Xicheng was an iceberg, then Li Beixing must be a pine tree on the mountain, giving people a sense of security. Mom, Uncle. Is this your wife? Li Beixing smiled and looked at Li Xicheng. Good boy, you have good taste. Grandpa chose her, Li Xicheng responded and naturally walked over to sit down on the sofa opposite him. In other words, if Grandpa chose her, he could not refuse. Li Beixing smiled, feeling extremely helpless about his brother. He looked at Su Qianxi and waved at her. Come, sit here. Su Qianxi looked a bit awkward and sat next to Li Xicheng. I'm sorry that I couldn't go to the hospital to see you last time. Do you blame me? Su Qianxi shook her head. It's not a big deal. It doesn't matter. Li Xicheng, Li said. Old Master Li's energetic voice came from behind. With a cold snort, he picked up his walking stick and hit Li Beixing. For a wild woman who came out of nowhere, you abandoned your sister-in-law. What a good brother you are. Li Beixing grimaced in pain and said with some pain, Grandpa, your sister-in-law is still here. Can't you give me some face? Chapter 131. However, after the blow, Captain Li's mood was obviously much better. He sat down next to Su Qianxi and asked kindly, Qianqian, did Xicheng bully you? No, he was very nice to me. Very nice? Humph. Captain Li glanced at Li Xicheng. Seeing Li Xicheng's calm face, he said with disdain, You think I don't know what kind of person he is? Would he stay in a hotel for more than a month if he was nice to you? Qin Shuhua and Li Beixing had not heard about this. Hearing what Captain Li said, they were both startled and looked at Li Xicheng. However, Li Xicheng did not seem to notice that he had become the focus of attention. He took a teacup from the table and slowly sipped. You stayed in a hotel for more than a month? Did you fight? Li Beixing and Qin Shuhua asked at the same time. One seemed to have expected it, and the other looked a bit complicated. Su Qianxi looked up at Qin Shuhua. She did not know if it was an illusion, but she saw a trace of relief in Qin Shuhua's eyes. Su Qianxi's heart sank. Qin Shuhua was probably still thinking of Tang Menjing as her daughter-in-law. Brother Xicheng, you're back too. A soft voice came from the door. Mr. and Mrs. Tang walked in with Tang Menjing and Tang Mengqing, smiling. Seeing Li Xicheng, Tang Menjing was pleasantly surprised. However, when such a surprise was met with a bucket of cold water, even Tang Menjing could not help feeling a bit embarrassed. Seeing this, Tang Zhenghao immediately tried to help. He looked at Li Beixing and said, Beixing, you are finally back. How long will you be back this time? When Tang Zhenghao was young, he was also a special forces soldier. However, when he retired, he gave up the army and went into business. He had high hopes for Li Beixing since he was a child. The two families lived close to each other, and for this reason, Tang Zhenghao treated Li Beixing like his own son. If it were not for the fact that Tang Menjing liked Li Xicheng, Su Qianxi would really doubt that he would marry his daughter to Li Xicheng. 3 days, just a short break. That's not bad. When I was young, I only had 1 day, and I couldn't even go home. Tang Zhenghao was already in his 50s, a few years older than Li Xicheng's father, and he treated the younger generation of the Li family as his own. Looking at Su Qianxi, he said, Is this the wife of the second son? Hello, Uncle Tang. Something flashed in Tang Zhenghao's eyes, and he smiled. Not bad at all. However, his eyes did not linger on Su Qianxi and looked at Captain Li. Let's go. It's been a long time since our two families got together. Hearing this suggestion, Li Xicheng frowned, glanced at Grandpa and Mother, and asked, Where to? Li Beixing looked confused as well. Qin Shuhua explained, Zhenghao made plans 2 days ago to invite the whole family out for dinner. However, your father went to the lower district for an inspection. Otherwise, we would be considered two families. That's right. Hey, you guys go ahead. This old man will just eat at home. I'm not interested in the feast of you youngsters. However, old Master Li insisted on not going. In the end, the parents of the two families went with the younger generation. It was said that the restaurant was booked by Tang Menjing. When Su Qianxi heard that, she had a bad feeling. Sure enough, as soon as they sat down in the restaurant, Tang Menjing took the menu and asked her to order. Su Qianxi took the menu and looked at it. Oh, my, they were all German. Chapter 132. Feeling the gazes of the three women of the Tang family, Su Qianxi remained calm and turned the menu. Sitting next to her, Li Xiqing glanced at her and frowned. His cold eyes swept to Tang Menjing like a cold arrow. Being stared at like that, Tang Menjing's heart raced. However, she pretended that she did not notice it and began to introduce the history of the restaurant. Su Qianxi, is this your first time here? This restaurant originated from the German royal family. After the introduction, Su Qianxi nodded and asked casually, Menjing, do you know German? Of course, Mrs. Tang said, looking at her daughter and husband proudly. My Tang Menjing has been famous for her talent since she was a child. In a family like ours, we have very high requirements for our children's education. She not only knows German, but also English, Chinese, Japanese, and French are compulsory courses. She can be a translator if she teaches any of them. Am I right, Jianghu? There was a hint of warning in Tang Jianghu's eyes. He seemed to be a bit displeased. Mrs. Tang covered her mouth as if she had just realized that she had done something wrong. Tang Menjing immediately said, Mom, why are you saying that? Tang Menqing echoed, that's right. I heard that Mrs. Li was an orphan when she was a child. How could she know German? Let me order. Then she took Su Qianxi's menu. Qin Shuhua's face darkened as the family echoed each other's words. What did that mean? Mocking her daughter-in-law? Wasn't that a slap in the face of the Li family? When Qin Shuhua was about to explode, she saw Su Qianxi smile and look at Tang Menqing. It's okay. Then she handed the menu to Li Xiqing and said in a voice that was just right, Honey, look at this Himmelandard. Do you want to try it? Su Qianxi smiled and looked at Tang Menqing. Honey, the two words were neither too light nor too heavy. When Li Xiqing heard them, his heart suddenly fluttered. Well, he liked that title. Looking sideways, Li Xiqing moved closer and grabbed her hand that was holding the menu. As he got closer, she clearly noticed the difference in the eyes around her. Looking up, he saw Tang Menjing's gentle face, but deep in her eyes, there was jealousy and hatred. Su Qianxi smiled wider, looked down at the menu, and pointed at a dish. This, Thuringer Rostbret Wurstwurst also looks good. Would you like to order one? Yes. His deep and magnetic voice rang in her ears, and she suddenly realized that the distance between her and Li Xiqing at the moment was actually less than 2 centimeters. His warm breath landed on her face. It was soft and ticklish. Su Qianxi immediately blushed and subconsciously wanted to stay away from him. However, when he sensed the gazes around him, he stopped what he was doing. Li Xiqing leaned closer and whispered, Not bad at German, much better than some translators. She was dazed. Was he helping her? Sure enough, she quietly looked up at the 3 women of the Tang family, and their faces were all gloomy. Qin Shuhua, on the other hand, looked much better. She urged, Hey, you and your wife are taking too long to order. Don't let the outsiders laugh at you. Chapter 133. Li Xiqing had a rare smile on his face. Looking up, he glanced at his brother coldly and said, Hurry up and get my sister-in-law done. Then you can show off as well. Li Beixing felt frustrated. If it was so easy, he would not have had to run back and forth. Li Beixing became silent. Turning to look at the Tang family, Tang Jianghao did not look too good, quietly drinking water. However, based on his years of understanding of Li Xicheng, the Tang family would have a big fight when they got back. Okay, that's it. Li Xicheng took the menu from her hand and suddenly thought of something. He turned around and said, "Don't let them add mustard and pepper. You can't eat it." Well, she was doing that. Su Qianxi blushed and nodded. Under everyone's gaze, she said shyly, "You decide." Okay. Oh my. Li Beixing was a bit angry. He took the menu from Li Xicheng's hand and asked, "Mom, what do you want to eat?" Soon, the Tang family finished ordering, and so did the Tang family. Seeing Su Qianxi being so confident, Tang Mengqing felt bad. Why was this woman so close to Li Xicheng? If it were not for her, her sister would be the one marrying Li Xicheng. Unwilling to give up, she glanced at her sister. Seeing that her expression was normal, she threw a warning look at her. Seeing that look, Tang Mengqing calmed down. She knew that her sister would have a solution. However, when the dishes were served, the humiliating plan that Tang Menjing and Tang Mengqing had come up with was completely useless. Because they thought that Su Qianxi must not have seen the world. She definitely did not know how to eat German food. However, Su Qianxi's table manners were impeccable. Seeing Qin Shuhua's admiring look, Mrs. Tang could not help but ask Tang Mengqing, "Mengqing, did you meet your sister-in-law at the gate of your school last time?" Hearing that, Su Qianxi's eyelids twitched. She had a bad feeling. Tang Mengqing heard her mother mention it and immediately said, "What are you talking about?" Tang Menjing pretended to be upset. She already has brother Xicheng. Don't talk nonsense. It's true. Tang Mengqing looked unconvinced. She had such a good time with that brother last time. I still have pictures of them. Her interest was piqued, and she nodded repeatedly. Yes, Mrs. Li is with a fair-skinned brother. They look like a good match. Pictures. Hearing the words, Qin Shuhua frowned and asked, "What pictures?" Su Qianxi's heart sank and looked at Su Qianxi. Li Xicheng also glanced at her, his eyes cold and deep. Then, he turned his head and said slowly, "It's just a harmless photo shoot. The angle is not bad at all." Tang Menjing did not expect that he would suddenly speak up for Su Qianxi. With his personality, how could he possibly speak up for others? So his relationship with her was so good that he didn't even care about this kind of photo? Su said. And said, he Menjing, Tang, he, Li. Yeah, Su Qianxi responded. Speaking of which, how is Sister Mengqing? I heard that the first child is very intelligent. You have to be careful in the first 3 months, don't end up like me. Tang Mengqing's expression changed dramatically. Her first reaction was to stand up and yell, "What are you talking about?" Chapter 134. Hearing Tang Jianghao's words, Tang Mengqing was even more scared. Tang Menjing quickly stood up and explained, "What child? Qianxi, are you mistaken?" Her eyes were full of warning. This was not the first time Su Qianxi had met Tang Menjing, and they had been best friends. How could Su Qianxi not understand what Tang Menjing was trying to say? However, Su Qianxi did not seem to understand at all, looking confused. That's not right. I clearly remember, Su Qianxi. Mrs. Tang could not help it either. Don't make up stories, or I will tear your mouth apart. Su Qianxi immediately shut her mouth, as if she was scared. However, no one at the scene was stupid. Seeing them like this, Tang Jianghao knew there must be something wrong. Tang Jianghao looked gloomy. As a retired Special Forces soldier and an experienced businessman, of course, he could tell that they wanted to protect Tang Mengqing. And it was their attitude that proved Su Qianxi was telling the truth. You got pregnant? Tang Jianghao suppressed the anger in his heart and looked at his youngest daughter. Tang Mengqing trembled and subconsciously hid behind her sister, not daring to speak. Tang Menjing glared at Su Qianxi and quickly hid her sister behind her back, saying, "Dad, don't, yes or no?" Tang Jianghu slammed the table and burst into anger. Su Qianxi did not expect that Tang Jianghu, who usually looked gentle, could be so intimidating when he was angry. Tang Mengqing felt wronged and exclaimed with tears in her eyes, "Why don't you believe me? Do you think Su Qianxi is telling the truth? Am I your daughter or is Su Qianxi your daughter?" Mrs. Tang trembled and quickly stood up to protect her daughter. "Don't do this. You are scaring the child." "Yes, Dad. Mengqing was scared by you." "How could she talk?" Tang Menjing said, "Can we talk about it at home?" She gestured around. Tang Jianghu suppressed his anger and looked at Su Qianxi. "Tell me, what is going on?" Su Qianxi felt the gaze from the three women of the Tang family and felt a bit pleased. Didn't they want to hurt her? Then she would strike first and see who was more ruthless. Hearing Tang Jianghu's words, Su Qianxi looked a bit embarrassed and looked at her mother-in-law. Qin Shuhua gently shook her head at her. Su Qianxi immediately understood and said apologetically, "There may be some misunderstanding. I must have mistaken you for someone else. I'm sorry, Uncle Tang." "Really?" Tang Jianghu didn't believe it. Su Qianxi looked hesitant. After looking around, she nodded reluctantly. Seeing her reaction, Tang Jianghu already had an idea in his heart. However, it was a family matter after all. Don't wash your dirty linen in public. Since she had already said so, in front of the Li clan, they would just treat it as a misunderstanding. Tang Jianghu sat in his chair, his heart filled with rage. The atmosphere in the room was dreadfully depressing. After a couple of minutes, she felt the urge to pee and walked out. But when he came out of the bathroom, there was already someone guarding the door. Chapter 135. Su Qianxi reacted quickly and caught Tang Mengqing's hand. Tang Mengqing did not expect Su Qianxi to react so fast. She screamed, "You be *tch, you are trying to kill me. That's so evil." Su Qianxi's face darkened. Hearing that, Su Qianxi suddenly smiled and pushed Tang Mengqing's hand away. "I was just giving you a taste of your own medicine. You." Seeing Su Qianxi's smile, Tang Mengqing was even angrier. "Be *tch, shameless mistress. I will kill you." Su Qianxi's eyes were cold. Catching Tang Mengqing's hand, she pulled Tang Mengqing's arm and pinned her against the sink. Tang Mengqing screamed and almost burst into tears, but she did not stop talking. "You shameless woman. You cheated on Li Xicheng and tried to frame me in front of my father. What did I do to offend you? Your whole family has offended me." Su Qianxi's eyes turned cold as she said coldly, "I will not offend those who do not offend me. Besides, if you were clean, how could I have anything on you?" Tang Mengqing was pinned down again and cried out in pain. "Ouch, it hurts. Let go of me. Apologize. Let go of me. It hurts so much. It's going to break. Apologize, and I will let go of you. I am sorry, what did I do wrong?" Tang Mengqing was pinned against the sink, facing the mirror. Seeing how miserable she was, Tang Mengqing felt even more wronged. She burst into tears and roared, "Don't go too far. It seems that you want your hand to be broken." Su Qianxi pinned her again. Feeling the excruciating pain, Tang Mengqing almost thought that her hand was going to break. She screamed, "I am sorry, I am sorry. I should not have yelled at you. You asked for it." Su Qianxi pulled her up and let go. Tang Mengqing stretched her wrist. Seeing Su Qianxi going to wash her hands, Tang Mengqing rushed over and pushed Su Qianxi. Su Qianxi was pushed and hit her head on the wall, making a thud. Tang Mengqing was in a good mood and walked out. Feeling dizzy, Su Qianxi felt a throbbing pain on her forehead. Seeing Tang Mengqing was about to walk out, she quickly grabbed her. But his hand was a step too slow, and his fingers could only grab her thigh. Tang Mengqing was wearing a short chiffon skirt, thin and fluffy. Su Qianxi reached under her panties casually. Su Qianxi clearly felt her fingers digging into her flesh. His fingers were clawed down, and his fingernails were already covered in beads of blood. Tang Mengqing felt a burning sensation and did not realize the pain until 2 seconds later. Lifting up her skirt, she saw 5 glistening bloodstains. Ah! Su Qianxi, you bitch! Su Qianxi did not expect her grab to be so powerful. Seeing her coming at her again, she dodged to the side. However, her head was even more dizzy and she almost fell to the ground. She had to yell, "Help! Murder!" Tang Mengqing was even angrier. "Stop pretending." Su Qianxi's body flashed, and she quickly ran out of the women's room. Tang Mengqing caught up with her, looking like she would not stop until she killed Su Qianxi. The more Su Qianxi ran, the more dizzy she became. At a corner, she bumped into someone. Shocked, Su Qianxi looked up and saw that she had fallen into a deep pool. Seeing the obvious bump on Su Qianxi's forehead, Li Xiqing immediately became gloomy and looked at Tang Mengqing, who had been chasing after him. His cold eyes made Tang Mengqing stop in her tracks, not daring to take another step. Chapter 136. His words, combined with Li Xiqing's cold aura, made Tang Mengqing feel like a demon from hell. Tang Mengqing had always known that Li Xiqing was not someone to be messed with, but she did not expect him to be this scary. He couldn't help but tremble in fear. He stood rooted to the spot, not daring to move. Hearing that, Su Qianxi's heart skipped a beat. "Who gave you the right to bully my wife?" His heart began to beat faster against his will. However, her head became dizzier, and she almost fell over. He reached out and pulled her into his arms. Looking down at the bump on her forehead that was obviously still growing, his cold gaze fell on her again. Obviously, the man did not do anything to her, but Tang Mengqing could not stop shivering. "Li Xiqing, Mr. Li, I feel like throwing up." Leaning on him, Su Qianxi felt weak and her eyelids were struggling. Li Xiqing glanced at Tang Mengqing coldly, giving her a dangerous look, which made Tang Mengqing feel even more uneasy. Carrying the woman in front of him, Li Xiqing whispered, "She might have a concussion. I'll take you to the hospital." Feeling drowsy, Su Qianxi did not say anything. She put her arms around his neck and let him carry her out of the dining room. Seeing that Tang Mengqing had not come back for a long time and Su Qianxi was gone, Tang Mengqing felt a bit uneasy. When she came out, she saw Li Xiqing holding Su Qianxi in his arms. Her hands were tightly pinching her arms. However, she immediately looked nervous and asked, "What's wrong, Su Qianxi? Are you not feeling well?" Li Xiqing glanced at her, but his eyes were cold and sharp. "Keep your family in check. If there is a next time, don't blame me for being rude." The cold warning made Tang Mengqing dazed. Holding Su Qianxi in his arms, Li Xiqing quickly walked past her, leaving Tang Mengqing standing there, dumbfounded. After he was gone, Tang Mengqing collapsed on the ground as if she had lost all her energy. Her body and head were covered in a cold sweat. Not long after, seeing Tang Mengqing walking toward her, Tang Mengqing immediately pouted. "Sis." Tang Mengqing was still in shock. Hearing Tang Mengqing's voice, she looked over and asked, "Why are you sitting on the ground?" "I think I'm in trouble, boo-hoo." She told Su Qianxi everything that had just happened, especially the fact that Su Qianxi might have a concussion, which made her feel uneasy. After figuring out what had happened, Tang Mengqing felt even more threatened by Su Qianxi. Brother Xiqing actually warned her for that woman. Moreover, she wasn't the only one being warned. The entire Tang family was also being warned. According to Li Xiqing's personality in the past, he would not say something so irrational. Could it be that in just 3 short months, he had already fallen for her? But why? She had been by his side for more than 10 years. Why didn't he have any feelings for her? "Impossible, that's impossible. No, I have to get them divorced as soon as possible." The plan to destroy Su Qianxi had to be brought forward. Chapter 137. After Su Qianxi was sent to the hospital, she was diagnosed with a slight concussion. Fortunately, it was not serious. She could go home after a short rest. For the next 2 or 3 days, Li Xiqing asked for leave for Su Qianxi and did not go to school. However, this matter soon reached the ears of the Li family and Tang Jianghu. On the 3rd day of her rest at home, a phone call summoned her back to the old mansion. Not long after she arrived, Tang Jianghu took his daughter to the Li family's house. "Apologize to your sister-in-law," Tang Jianghu said sternly. Tang Mengqing looked aggrieved. Her eyes had become like a goldfish's. Under everyone's gaze, her face was shockingly red. She retorted, "It's not my fault." She did not watch where she was going and fell. Su Qianxi immediately knew what they were up to. Sneering inwardly, Su Qianxi looked at Tang Mengqing as if she was an idiot and said, "If I could get a concussion while going to the bathroom, then my weight must be scary." "Su Qianxi, don't accuse me." Tang Mengqing gritted her teeth. "Tang Mengqing." Tang Jianghu was disappointed. "You still won't admit it. Do you think I don't know your personality? It's fine that you embarrassed yourself at home, but your sister-in-law is not in good health, and you still treat her like this. I have raised you for nothing." Mrs. Tang immediately pulled Tang Mengqing to the back and looked at her husband. "Do you know how badly your daughter has been bullied by her? You have no idea how badly she has hurt her daughter. Why do you care about an outsider? Then tell me, how did she bully your daughter?" "All I know is that she pushed Tang Mengqing and got a concussion." "What about your daughter?" "She has done nothing but ruin the family's reputation. I, Tang Jianghu, have lost all my face because of you." Tang Jianghu's voice was very loud. Obviously, he already knew that Tang Mengqing had an abortion. Startled by the roar, Su Qianxi took a step back. However, when she stepped back, she bumped into a meat wall. She looked back and saw it was Li Xiqing. Li Xiqing naturally stood next to her, watching the farce in front of him coldly. Captain Li heard the noise and came out. Leaning on his cane, he asked coldly, "What happened?" Uncle Li, Tang Jianghu immediately calmed down and told him the purpose of the meeting. Tang Mengqing looked reluctant. "She bullied me first. You have no idea how badly she scratched me. It still hurts." "Where did she scratch you? Why don't you show me?" Qin Shuhua's voice came from inside. "Speak with evidence. If you have solid evidence, this matter will end here. If not, you must apologize to Su Qianxi today." Qin's attitude was very tough, and Su Qianxi almost applauded Li Xiqing's words. Su Qianxi's eyes became darker. According to Qianxi, Mengqing's Qianxi's, Su's. He believed Tang Mengqing when she said that he was kidnapped by Su Qianxi. Su's, Su, but why did not she, Su and Li, Su, Qianxi's Su, Li's, Qianxi, and said, "Xiqing, Li, Su, he, S Li, Su, and Chen, Li Xiqing. Of all places, Su Qianxi chose that spot. Why don't you lift it up and see?" Su Qianxi crossed her arms and looked fearless. Tang Mengqing was dazed and hesitated. "How can I look at that spot?" There were so many men there, and even Tang Jianghu could not look at his daughter's private part. Chapter 138. Tang Mengqing felt so wrong that she almost burst into tears. Glaring at Su Qianxi, she roared, "You must have done it on purpose. You grabbed me on purpose so that there would be no witnesses, right? You evil woman." Su Qianxi felt a bit wronged. How did it become me doing it on purpose? Can my hand grow so long that I can reach inside to grab you? In all honesty, she really did not do it on purpose. However, it was a good grab. Qin Shuhua agreed with Su Qianxi's words. Although Qin Shuhua was not very satisfied with this daughter-in-law of hers, she was still a member of the Li family. Although the Tang family and the Li family were old friends, it was also a fact that the Tang family had bullied the Li family. Hearing Tang Mengqing's words, Qin Shuhua snorted, "Who is right and who is wrong is still debatable. But is this how the daughters of the Tang family are raised?" Tang Zhenghao felt his face was burning. He felt that the reputation of the Tang family, which had been built for generations, had been ruined by his youngest daughter. Tang Zhenghao's temper flared up. He pressed Tang Mengqing down and roared, "Apologize." Tang Mengqing looked stubborn. With tears in her eyes, she yelled, "I did not do anything wrong. She deserved it. If it were not for her, Li Xiqing would be my sister now. She is a mistress, a bitch." She finally heard it. In her previous lifetime, Su Qianxi had heard these words the most. She was a lowly mistress. If it were not for her, it would be Tang Menjing who married Li Xiqing. Hearing that, Su Qianxi subconsciously looked at Captain Li Sun. Captain Li met Su Qianxi's gaze and sneered as if to comfort her. "Nephew Tang, I don't think you have the right to tell my grandson's marriage, do you?" Hearing that, Tang Zhenghao felt even more humiliated. Needless to say, it must have been the older two who had indoctrinated her. Tang Zhenghao was so angry that he reached out and slapped her hard in the face, shouting, "Who told you all this?" Being slapped, Tang Mengqing cried even louder. I am. Why should Su Qianxi, an illegitimate daughter and an orphan, marry Li Xiqing? However, before he could finish, Tang Menjing covered his mouth tightly. Tang Menjing looked at her father pleadingly. "Dad, don't hit her. Mengqing is still young." Then he looked at his sister and said, "Mengqing, apologize to Qianxi. After that, let's go home. Be good." Tang Mengqing cried even harder, tears rolling down her cheeks. However, Su Qianxi gave him a cold look, turned around, and walked back into the room. This was her greatest weakness. In her previous life, it was these people who tried their best to poke at this point, digging out and magnifying the inferiority in her heart. Everyone was reminding her that she was lowly, uncultured, and uncultured. Later on, no matter how much she learned or how hard she tried, she couldn't change this fact. In this lifetime, she had changed everything. However, when she heard these words again, Su Qianxi still could not ignore it. He noticed her emotional change. The moment she turned around, he grabbed her wrist and said, "I don't care." His low voice was like rich coffee, making Su Qianxi stop and stiffen. Chapter 139. His voice came from behind her once again. It was as low as a feather, but it shook her entire world. She felt tears welling up in her eyes. Lowering her head, her tears fell on the back of her hand. What he said echoed in her mind. He did not care. He did not care. Did he really not care? In her previous lifetime, he cared so much. Su Qianxi's shoulders trembled. Anyone could tell what she was feeling. Standing behind her, Li Xiqing's cold eyes softened a bit. Pulling her around, he saw her hopelessly aggrieved little face at first glance. His eyes darkened, he pressed Su Qianxi's head against his chest and looked at Tang Mengqing, who already knew that she was in trouble again. "I do not want to see you in my house anymore." His voice was cold and deep, and it faintly carried a hint of warning that could not be disobeyed. Tang Mengqing's face paled. Facing his threatening gaze, she shivered and looked at her sister for help. Tang Menjing looked terrible. She did not expect that things would turn out like this. In this way, she was even further away from the Li family. "Go back," old Master Li also ordered them to leave. "Our family is so uneducated and uncultured that we can't welcome distinguished guests like you." Of all the people Tang Zhenghao respected the most, old Master Li Sun was number one. Hearing that, even Tang Zhenghao was a bit anxious and said, "Uncle Li, go." Captain Li did not want to look at him and waved his hand. Soon, the Tang family left. Captain Li waved his hand and said, "Xiqing, take your wife back. I should not have asked her to apologize." She is so ungrateful. Qin Shuhua looked regretful and said to Su Qianxi, "Don't mind what that girl said. You are so much better than Tang Mengqing." Su Qianxi nodded, but there was another knot in her heart. She was so much better than Tang Mengqing. Then what about Tang Menjing? Qin Shuhua was still holding back when she said that. In fact, she still hoped that Tang Menjing would be her daughter-in-law. Slightly disappointed, she wiped her face and whispered, "Thank you, Mom." Li Xiqing saw her insincerity and pulled her. "Let's go. I'll take you to dinner." He asked her to choose a restaurant. She told him the name of a restaurant and asked him to drive her there. When he arrived, he realized it was a hot pot restaurant. "I used to come here when I was in a bad mood." Of course, this was referring to his previous life. However, Li Xiqing did not know that. Thinking that she was talking about the time before she married him, he nodded. Xing Shiming often brought her to this hot pot restaurant. He once said that life was like a hot pot. At the beginning, the soup was clear and fragrant. However, most people would add a lot of things into the pot, stirring up the soup into a mess. However, he enjoyed the process of muddying the soup like a dictator. Although it was a bit strange, she liked what he said. He did not like coming to this kind of occasion and frowned. However, seeing that she was in a better mood, he suppressed the urge to leave and followed her in. Chapter 140. Although it was a hot pot restaurant, it was a quiet and comfortable place. Li Xiqing looked around and reluctantly accepted the decision to eat here. However, when Su Qianxi was about to get a private room, she was politely told that there were no more rooms available. "Then let's have the lobby." However, she immediately swallowed her words and looked at Li Xiqing. How could someone like Li Xiqing be willing to sit in the lobby? Seeming to feel her hesitation, Li Xiqing looked over and arched an eyebrow. "Do you really want to eat?" Su Qianxi hesitated and nodded. It had been a long time since she had tasted the food here. Now that she was here, she really did not want to leave. Seeing the disdain in Li Xiqing's eyes, Su Qianxi quickly said, "It's okay if you don't want to eat. Let's go to another place." Here, Li Xiqing interrupted her. "Help us find a quiet place to sit." Su Qianxi was pleasantly surprised and blinked. "Okay." The waiter smiled and took them to a seat next to the bed. It was in the corner but had a good view. "Mr. Li, this is the best seat in the lobby. You can press the call button if you need anything. We will serve you wholeheartedly." "Okay." As he expected. Everywhere Li Xiqing went, people would know him. Soon, she finished ordering and placing the order. She was obviously in a much better mood. "When did you learn German?" Su Qianxi looked up and was dazed for a second. She quickly replied, "Oh, I learned it during the summer vacation." "Didn't you learn judo during the summer vacation?" Something had happened. Su Qianxi looked uncomfortable and said that it was during the summer vacation last semester. Li Xiqing arched an eyebrow. It takes a long time to learn a language. Without practical communication, it is hard to be fluent. Are you sure you still remember what you learned last summer? Moreover, if you remembered correctly, didn't she stay with the Su family last summer? I have a good memory. Oh. Li Xiqing nodded. What about the piano? As far as he knew, no one in the Su family knew how to play the piano, let alone owned one. In addition, judging from her piano skills, she had at least reached the 9th level. This level was not something that could be achieved in 1 or 2 summers. Su Qianxi's heart raced. She took a sip of lemonade and looked away. I am talented and self-taught. Li Xiqing pursed his lips and narrowed his eyes, thinking. Under such intense gaze, she couldn't stand it anymore. Putting down the glass, she said, I'm going to the bathroom. As he spoke, he stood up and walked out. She walked to the bathroom with ease, feeling perturbed. Oh no, how was she going to explain? Could it be that he had died once, and now he was back? He would treat her like a lunatic. However, she had never thought of an explanation for this kind of problem. It was really a little strange that she suddenly understood it. After going to the bathroom, he pondered for a long time before slowly walking out. This restaurant was very quiet, and there were very few people coming and going. On the way back to his seat, a petite and cute girl walked towards him. When she saw Su Qianxi, she quickly stopped her and said in broken Chinese, "You. Okay, do you speak Korean?" Su Qianxi arched an eyebrow and asked in Korean, "What's up?" The girl let out a sigh of relief and quickly explained her situation. It turned out that she had come here to eat hot pot and felt uncomfortable halfway through. She went to the bathroom and found that she was on her period. However, she did not bring the necessities of a woman. When she saw Su Qianxi, she immediately asked for help. Su Qianxi happened to have a few pills with her. After giving her 2, the girl thanked her profusely and went into the bathroom. Su Qianxi smiled and turned around again. At the end of the hallway, she saw a familiar tall figure. Chapter 141. However, seeing him standing behind her, her heart skipped a beat. When did he stand behind her? Then the fact that she could speak Korean, looking at his face, she couldn't help feeling guilty. He looked at her silently for 2 seconds before looking away and walking into the men's room. She felt relieved. It turned out that he was just here to use the restroom. Why was he acting like a thief? Su Qianxi looked upset, but she quickly returned to her seat. On the way, she did not even dare to look back. However, she did not know that the man behind her had walked out again. Looking at her back, he seemed to be deep in thought. Picking up his phone, he quickly dialed a number. It was Cheng Yu. However, when the call was about to go through, he immediately cancelled it. Thinking about it, he found another number in his contact list and dialed it. The call was quickly connected. There was the sound of typing, and a clear male voice sounded. "Hey, isn't this Li Xicheng? Why did you come to me today? Help me investigate someone. F***CK, I'm an IT guy, not a criminal investigator. You should go to a detective agency. Investigate my wife." The other party was silent. After a few seconds, he asked, "Why?" "Weird." Well, she had long been used to second young Master Li's concise words. "Well, only I can do such a secretive thing. I'm currently developing a holographic projection technology, but I'm still short of funds." "You?" Zhang Heng was speechless. "How much?" 10 million. Blackmail? The other party chuckled. "I'm in trouble." It was rare for Li Xicheng to ask him for a favor, so how could he not blackmail him? "Yes, give me the results in 2 hours. The more detailed, the better." Hey, wait. Do you want to know about my feelings, my background, or something else? Did she put on a hat for you? How dare she?" Li Xicheng's eyes darkened. "I want to know everything about her, no matter how big or small." "Got it. It's still the same account, don't forget I love you au moi." Li Xicheng immediately felt speechless and hung up the phone. He put away his phone and walked back to his seat. At the same time, the sound of flushing came from the bathroom. Xing Shiming pretended not to care and went to wash his hands. However, when he saw Li Xicheng's back, his heart sank. Isn't this guy Miss Su's husband? He wanted to investigate Su Qianxi. He had thought that their relationship was good, but now it seemed that their relationship was damned good. After washing her hands in silence, she followed him. Her eyes seemed to unintentionally look in the direction of Li Xicheng and immediately saw Su Qianxi. "Ximing, what are you looking at?" "The food is ready," Song Yifan called. "Yes." Xing Shiming sat down, looked at Song Yifan and said, "Do you remember Rongxian?" Song Yifan's hand paused in the middle of cooking the hot pot. He looked over with a cold look. Rongxian. This name had stunned them for a long time, but in the end, it also became a taboo name for each other. Chapter 142. Song Yifan looked down and slowly processed the ingredients. He said calmly, "You must be mistaken. Xian died a long time ago. No matter how similar they look, it can't be her." Xing Shiming also became silent. After a while, he continued, "They really look alike. At first glance, I thought I saw Xian. If she had a child back then, she would probably..." Song Yifan's hands slightly trembled. His eyes, which were usually calm and gentle, had a trace of emotion. "Where is she?" Xing Shiming pointed to a corner by the window. From their point of view, it was completely blocked by the high sofa. Song Yifan put down his chopsticks, stood up, and looked over. However, before he saw it, there was another person in front of him. It was the owner of the hot pot restaurant. He smiled politely and said, "Mr. Song, what do you think?" Song Yifan frowned, looked over again, and saw a soft and beautiful face. "Okay, but I want to add one more condition." Seeing Li Xiqing coming back, Su Qianxi felt a bit nervous. Silently cooking the ingredients, she pretended that she did not know he was back. Li Xiqing did not speak either. The atmosphere was a bit awkward. The sound of microphones came from all directions, a bit sharp and harsh. "Good afternoon, everyone. It's a pleasure to see you here." Many people only listened for a while before they lowered their heads and continued eating. "Today, Mr. Song Yifan has also come to our restaurant. Do you want to hear him play?" Song Yifan. Hearing the name, many people looked up and immediately responded, "Yes." "Is it really Song Yifan?" "No way. Is it just a gimmick of the hot pot restaurant?" Su Qianxi looked over and could see a piano in the center of the hall. In front of the piano, there was a person standing. It was him who had just said the words. "Let Mr. Song see how enthusiastic you are. Let's cheer together. Song Yifan, Song Yifan, Song Yifan." All the people in the restaurant began to shout. Everyone was looking around, trying to find Song Yifan. Su Qianxi was no exception. After a while, she saw a man in his 30s or 40s standing up in a corner. He was tall, thin but healthy. He walked leisurely to the piano, dressed in casual clothes. He looked soft and casual, but his elegant aristocratic aura was still strong. When Su Qianxi saw his face, she immediately held her breath, and her heart raced with excitement. This person, Song Yifan? Song Yifan, one of the best pianists in the world and the only Chinese in the International Piano Association? How could she meet Song Yifan in such a place? Heavens, she wasn't dreaming, was she? The idol he worshipped the most in both his previous and current life, as well as the only person he worshipped, was actually here. It was too amazing. Widening his eyes in disbelief, he wanted to take a closer look, but his eyes inadvertently caught sight of a familiar figure standing up as well. Uncle Sheng? Uncle Sheng was having hot pot with Song Yifan? Yes, Uncle Sheng and Song Yifan seemed to be good friends. Chapter 143. It was said that when they were young, they even had a falling out over a woman. Later, Song Yifan went to France and became an international pianist, while Li Xiqing became one of the top lawyers in Kingstown. Kingstown was the memory of the three of them. In her previous life, she had never met Song Yifan, nor had she heard anything about Song Yifan from Uncle Sheng's mouth other than the past. How come? Could it be that this was also the trajectory that he had changed? No, that was not right. He had nothing to do with her, right? While Su Qianxi was dazed, Song Yifan had walked onto the stage and stood next to the host. Putting one hand on the left side of his heart, he bowed and said, "Hello, everyone. I am Song Yifan." Ah. It really is Song Yifan. I can't believe I'm eating at the same hot pot restaurant with Song Yifan. So happy. This restaurant is so rich. They can even invite Song Yifan. Are you stupid? Obviously, Mr. Song is just here for dinner. Who would be dressed like this? But, he is so handsome. Hearing the screams of the girls around her, Su Qianxi's heart was pounding, and her eyes were shining. "Wipe your saliva," Li Xiqing said coldly, which dazed Su Qianxi. She subconsciously touched her chin. But, dry, blushing, Su Qianxi gave him a stare and accidentally saw the teasing look in his eyes. Is he really that good-looking? He was just an old man, not even 1/10 as good-looking as him. Did he have to look like that? Blushing, Su Qianxi took a sip of water. Of course, he is good-looking. He frowned slightly. He seemed to have married an infatuated woman. Could it be that a man who was slightly better looking would be able to abduct her and take her away? It is our honor to welcome Mr. Song to our restaurant. All meals are 20% off today. In addition, we would like to invite a lucky customer to play a song with our international pianist. I wonder who will have the honor. Me, my piano skills have already passed level 10. Pick me, me. Me, it must be me. Although I have not passed level 10, I have heard all of Mr. Song's songs. I can play. Pick me, Su Qianxi blinked and felt a bit regretful. She didn't expect that there would be so many experts here. Sitting in such a corner, she was afraid that there was no hope for her. Looking back with regret, she picked up a piece of meat, dipped it in the sauce, and put it in her mouth. Don't worry, everyone has a chance. Let's pick a lucky customer. If the person we pick doesn't know how to play the piano, then the opportunity will be transferred. As he spoke, a spotlight at the top began to spin rapidly. Song Yifan's fans all held their breath, and some even trembled with excitement. She swallowed the food in her mouth and took a sip of the lemonade. However, a strong light shone over, causing her eyes to sting slightly, and she squinted her eyes. Okay, miss. The spotlight fell on Su Qianxi, and she instantly became the focus of everyone. Why? She was chosen even though she was sitting in such a corner. Her life is too good. F***ck, if I had known earlier, would have sat there. Boo-hoo, I was born at the wrong time. Chapter 144. Everyone's eyes were focused on her. Su Qianxi clearly felt the jealousy around her. It's you. Yes, it's you. You can't play the piano, right? No way, right? Yes. Let's transfer the opportunity. The expectant voices around made Su Qianxi blink her eyes, and then she was overwhelmed with ecstasy. It's really me? Su Qianxi looked at Li Xiqing, overjoyed. Li Xiqing frowned slightly, looked up, and glanced at the spotlight that had been directed at her. His meaning was self-evident. Su Qianxi exclaimed happily, it's really me. The host smiled and said, yes, lucky girl. Do you know how to play the piano? I do. Of course, she did. When she was in the most difficult and awkward situation, it was Song Yifan's music that brought her out of the darkness. In Song Yifan's style, there was a natural sense of sadness. Pessimistic and low, but the more you listened to it, the more magical it was. There was a saying that was called survival in a desperate situation. Song Yifan's music had this feeling the most. It was magical and beautiful. It was also because of Song Yifan that Su Qianxi decided to learn the piano. Now, she was lucky enough to meet this idol that she had always thought could only be seen from afar. She did not expect that she would have the opportunity to play with him. Su Qianxi's heart almost jumped out of her chest, filled with nervousness and excitement. Seeing Su Qianxi like this, the host felt a bit strange. This girl did not seem to be any different from other fans, and it looked like she was seeing Song Yifan for the first time. Why did Song Yifan treat her so differently? Although curious, the host still had to maintain his professionalism. He waved at Su Qianxi and said, can you come to the front? Yes. Almost jumping up and down, Su Qianxi quickly got up from her seat and walked toward the stage where Song Yifan was. At this moment, Su Qianxi felt like she was surrounded by dozens of pairs of eyes, feeling very nervous. But soon, she relaxed again. Phew. It was no big deal. She could just pretend that she was at a party. Thinking about it this way, Su Qianxi's condition was undoubtedly much better. Stepping forward, she clearly noticed that Song Yifan was looking at her. His gaze was deep and indescribable. It was like looking at an acquaintance. But amidst the familiarity, there was also a complicated unfamiliarity. The first time Uncle Xing saw her, he had the same look in his eyes. However, in Song Yifan's eyes, she clearly sensed the sadness and indescribable bitterness in his eyes. What does that mean? Seeing that, Su Qianxi subconsciously looked in the direction of Xing Shiming. Xing Shiming was a little surprised that she had found him. He smiled at her and made a gesture to cheer her on. Lucky lady, what's your name? My surname is Su. Okay, Miss Su. Did you know Mr. Song before this? Of course, she blurted out. Song Yifan's eyes fell on her face, and there seemed to be a smile on his lips. Gentle and doting? Su Qianxi blinked, and when she fixed her eyes on him, they disappeared again. Oh, it must be an illusion. This was the first time they had met. However, no one noticed the golden seat in the corner of the restaurant. Chapter 145. Feeling the unfriendly stare, Song Yifan looked at the corner. Instantly, their eyes met. His warm and deep eyes seemed to have collided with an extremely cold glacier. For a moment, their gazes were intertwined. Song Yifan clearly saw the warning and displeasure in the cold man's eyes and was a bit surprised. If he remembered correctly, this young man should be Li Xicheng, the new upstart in the business world in Kingstown. Seeing the unfriendly stare from Li Xicheng, Su Qianxi felt a bit uneasy. How could she forget that Li Xicheng was still here? However, what should she do now? He did not seem very happy. Should she give up the opportunity to be intimate with her idol? No way. This was the only time in her 2 lifetimes. Besides, she had never been very lucky. If she missed this chance, would she ever have another chance? No, not again. Gritting her teeth, facing Li Xicheng's cold stare, she turned around and turned her back to him. Seeing this, Li Xicheng's eyes became darker and darker. This woman was getting bolder and bolder. Seeing this, Song Yifan knew that they must know each other, so he nodded at Li Xicheng with a friendly smile. However, in Li Xicheng's eyes, Song Yifan's smile was completely different. Was this old man provoking him? Turning his eyes, he looked at Xing Shiming, who was standing not far away from Song Yifan. It seemed that these 2 old men wanted to work together to steal his wife. Coincidence? Lucky client? Su Qianxi had been picked out from such a corner. It would be an accident. However, Li Xicheng really could not figure out what attracted them to Su Qianxi. Miss Su, do you know how to play Qi Xian? Song Yifan's voice was deep and husky, unique to a mature man. Hearing it, Su Qianxi felt like she was going to melt. She nodded again and again. Su Qianxi wanted to say something, but found herself too nervous and excited to say a word. Song Yifan's eyes softened when he looked at her. She was really very similar to her. No wonder Xing Shiming would have such a reaction. Then, shall we begin? The audience was full of jealousy, wishing they could replace Su Qianxi and become the one to play with their idol. She nodded, and after he sat down, she sat next to him. Qi Xian was the song that made Song Yifan famous. This piece amazed the entire piano association. It was also this song that made Song Yifan famous and honored. The familiar music sounded, and everyone quieted down, quietly listening to this rare live performance. Song Yifan went from alto bass, and Su Qianxi naturally went from alto treble. The first half was a bit low. After Song Yifan finished, Su Qianxi's fingers fell on a white key. Wrong. As soon as she pressed it, someone immediately shouted, "Does that woman know how to play Qi Xian? That is not the sound." These words were echoed by many girls who were already feeling unbalanced. Aya, don't force yourself if you don't know. You're embarrassing yourself. That's right. Sigh, if I go up, there will definitely be no problem. Song Yifan frowned and turned to look at Su Qianxi. It seemed that Su Qianxi did not hear the voices around her at all, focusing on the keys. Her fingers were long and slender. She was born to play the piano. The sound of the piano gradually became louder. The sad and loving music filled the restaurant and seeped into everyone's ears. Those who had just ridiculed Su Qianxi gradually became silent. Song Yifan was the most touched. He gradually stopped playing and looked at the girl he had met for the first time. Su Qianxi seemed to have entered a place where no one was around. Her side profile was as tranquil as a painting. Although she did not have any makeup on, she was more stunning than any makeup. One glance was enough to take one's soul. The person in front of him and the face in his memory merged into one. Song Yifan's eyes, which had been calm before, were suddenly filled with glints. Chapter 146. As the sound of the zither faded, the entire hall was filled with thunderous applause. As for Song Yifan, after the first part, he did not play anymore. It was almost Su Qianxi's show. Who is this? She played so well. I have never heard of her, but she is so pretty. So pretty. I heard that Song Yifan is not married yet. They look quite good together. Song Yifan is obviously much older than her. Besides, he came with a boyfriend. Look over there. Hearing that, many people looked at the place where Su Qianxi had been sitting. Wow, so handsome. Ah, isn't that Li Xicheng? Li Xicheng. No way, it's really Li Xicheng. Oh my god, what kind of luck do I have today? I can't believe I saw so many VIPs. Wait, is that girl Li Xicheng's girlfriend? Don't tell me the truth. I want some time alone. Don't ask me who she is. But isn't Li Xicheng married? Hearing the discussion around her, Su Qianxi felt like she was being looked at like a monkey. Blushing, she quickly stood up. Song Yifan also stood up at the same time. Almost at the same time, they bowed to each other. Husband and wife. Someone with a cheap mouth shouted, causing the surrounding people to roar with laughter. Su Qianxi's heart raced, but she did not feel offended by the teasing. After all, he was her idol. Looking at Song Yifan, Su Qianxi looked up with her eyes sparkling. She summoned up her courage and said, "Mr. Song, can I take a picture with you?" "My pleasure." Song Yifan's words made many girls scream again. "I'm going to faint. Song Yifan is so gentlemanly and mature. I want to be his fan." Mature men are indeed the most attractive. However, when Su Qianxi picked up her phone and turned on the camera, a big hand blocked her phone and snatched it away. Su Qianxi was startled. Turning around, she saw a handsome face that was obviously displeased and gloomy. Her heart skipped a beat, and the impulse to get angry immediately softened. He. When did he get up there? She actually did not notice anything at all. But under such circumstances, he was a little anxious. He stretched out his hand, wanting to snatch it back. "Give me back my phone." Li Xicheng's face became colder. Putting the phone behind him, he took the opportunity to hold her in his arms. All she could see was her phone. Standing on her tiptoes, she reached behind him. "Give it back to me." "Why did you take my phone?" "You're not allowed to take pictures." The cold voice was filled with displeasure. "I won't allow it." His voice was extremely low and cold. Su Qianxi was a bit angry. "Why? That's my phone, and I'm not taking pictures with you. Why can't you let me?" It was precisely because it wasn't with him that he wouldn't allow it. Even Li Xicheng was shocked by the idea. However, when Su Qianxi stood with Song Yifan, he felt uncomfortable. Ignoring her protest, the arm around her waist tightened and said firmly, "Go home." It was also because of this that Su Qianxi realized how intimate they were at this moment. Under everyone's gaze, her whole body was almost pressed against him. As she moved, she could clearly feel the warmth of his body. Looking around, she found that almost everyone was looking at her. Blushing, Su Qianxi quickly lowered her head. Chapter 147. Hearing the exclamations around her, Su Qianxi lowered her head, wishing she could find a hole to hide in. Pushing him, she whispered, "Let go of me." Li Xiqing looked down and could see her pink ears. Cute. He raised his hand and covered her ears. Under Su Qianxi's shocked gaze, he looked at Song Yifan. "I've heard a lot about you, but we should go." Seeing the obvious displeasure in Li Xiqing's eyes, Song Yifan smiled warmly. Nodding, Song Yifan reached into his pocket and took out a card. "This is my business card. Miss Su, we can keep in touch." Song Yifan's business card. Oh my god. Damn, I'm so lucky. Why didn't he pick me? The audience was excited, and Su Qianxi was jumping for joy. Keep in touch? Her idol had given her his business card and asked her to keep in touch with him. Since she came back to life, it was the first time that Su Qianxi had been so happy and lucky. Excitedly slapping his hand away, she turned around and held the small card in her hand. On the card, there was only a name, a number, and an email address. There was no title, but it was completely Song Yifan style. Su Qianxi couldn't help but think of a saying, "Being low-key is the best way to show off." "Can we go home now?" Li Xiqing's gloomy voice came to Su Qianxi's mind. She nodded and looked at Song Yifan. Then, "I'll go." "Yes, is this your boyfriend?" Song Yifan asked. Su Qianxi blinked. Boyfriend? To her, these three words were too far away from her. She had never had a boyfriend before. Shaking her head, Su Qianxi smiled. However, before she came back to herself, she felt a chill behind her. Looking back, she saw Li Xiqing's cold eyes. Feeling cold, Su Qianxi said sensibly, "Let's go home." Getting off the stage and walking out of the restaurant under everyone's gaze, Su Qianxi held the business card tightly in her hand. Her heart was full of excitement. Today, she had not only solved Tang Mingxing's problem, but also met Song Yifan and got the business card of her idol. Su Qianxi felt that she was so lucky. Staring at the business card, she followed him closely. However, in a moment of inattention, the man in front of her suddenly stopped. Su Qianxi was caught off guard and bumped into his strong back. Her nose was sore. With a pained expression, she covered her nose and looked at him with teary eyes. "It hurts," he looked back, but his eyes fell on the business card in her hand. Soon, he looked away. "Is it that nice?" Su Qianxi blinked and smiled. "You look good." Seeing their idol's name card was like seeing their idol in person. How could it not look good? Li Xiqing's eyes darkened as he reached out and took the card from her hand. "Let me have a look." The card was suddenly taken away. She was shocked and reached out to grab it. However, she did not know if Li Xiqing's fingers had been touched by her, or he had deliberately loosened his grip. The card instantly fell from his fingers. It was a sunny and windless day in Connecticut. The business card fell vertically. Under Su Qianxi's nervous gaze, it went into the gap of the drain not far from their feet. Chapter 148. Ah! Business card. She screamed and immediately took a step back, squatting down. In front of her was a dark ditch, water was flowing, and there was a constant stench. The smile on her face suddenly disappeared. She looked up and roared, "Why did you take my business card?" Besides, the road was so wide and spacious. Why did he stop in front of the ditch? Not only did he stop, but he also took the business card at this time and accidentally dropped it. Could it be that he did it on purpose? However, Li Xiqing would not do such a stupid thing, would he? Li Xiqing glanced at her, and a trace of meaning flashed in his eyes. Was this woman throwing a tantrum at him? Well, it seemed that not only was she getting bolder, but her temper was also getting worse. He reached out and picked up the girl squatting on the ground. He said casually, "It's just a business card. I have one too." Then he took out a business card and handed it over. However, the name on it was Li Xiqing. The business card was exquisite and elegant, with a black card and silver lettering. However, when she saw the black business card in front of her, she felt aggrieved. Stomping her feet, she turned around and left. Seeing that she ignored him and left, Li Xiqing's eyes darkened. "Where are you going?" "Home. The car is in the back. I'll go back myself." Li Xiqing raised an eyebrow in surprise. Was she throwing a tantrum? He had thought that she would not throw a tantrum. She looked exactly the same as she did on the first 2 days of their marriage. However, she was much better than before. When he was about to go up, his phone rang. It was Luo Zhan, one of his few good friends. Li Xiqing put the phone to his ear and did not make a sound. "Young Master Li, how much time did you give me? Amnesia? No sense of humor at all. Did you find it?" "Of course, but you have to be mentally prepared." Li Xiqing vaguely had a bad feeling. Was there really something wrong with Su Qianxi's background? Su Qianxi, right? Although her last name is Su, she grew up in an orphanage. "Tell me something I don't know," Li Xiqing interrupted. Luo Zhan said. "This is called foreshadowing." Foreshadowing, understand? This is the same logic as when you go to bed. Without foreplay, how can there be a climax? Don't you think so? Speak human language. Why are you in such a hurry? You will become a 3-second man if you are anxious. Luo Zhan laughed. Driving Li Xiqing crazy was his greatest pleasure. Li Xiqing suppressed the urge to hang up and gritted his teeth in silence. Luo Zhan sensed the sense of crisis and immediately became serious. He coughed lightly and said, "Back then, Su Han, the daughter of the Su family, disappeared mysteriously at the age of 17. According to the investigation, she should have been sold to the deep mountains in the countryside and had a child." Li Xiqing narrowed his eyes. "You mean, it's very likely that your wife is the child that was born from that asterisk asterisk asterisk." Chapter 149. I haven't called the 10 million yet. Luo Zhan shivered and immediately sat up straight, yelling, "Damn, you are so disloyal. I have checked for you, and you still haven't called." Su Qianxi's figure was already far away. Li Xiqing glanced at the small white bag in his hand and did not want to chase after her. He slowly walked to his car, opened the door, and sat back. "If you keep me guessing, I will ask my assistant to bring it back." When Luo Zhan heard this, he immediately smiled flatteringly. In fact, it was nothing. Later, the family moved to the city. Su Han pretended to go grocery shopping, so she was able to escape with her daughter. She wrote a letter about her family background and left it at the door of the orphanage with her daughter's name. She wrote about the Su family? Yes, the general contents said that she was the daughter of the Su family. If she was sent back, she would get a lot of money. The director of the orphanage believed it and was overjoyed. As a result, he sent the baby to the Su family, but the Su family did not recognize the child as their sister's daughter at all. They even said that if they continued to pester them, they would call the police. So, the child grew up in the orphanage. You don't know these things, right? Yes. He really did not know there was such a layer. He did not expect the Su family to be so heartless that they did not even recognize their sister's child. Didn't your old man go on a mission when he was about to retire? About 18 years ago, a woman named Su Han saved his life and helped him eat a bullet. Your old man was so touched that he cried bitterly and said that he would agree to any of her conditions. That woman proposed that her daughter must marry his most outstanding grandson. You know this, but I'm curious. Why was the Su family willing to recognize that niece later? You don't know the grandpa's means? Li Xiqing took out a cigarette and slowly lit it. He did not smoke it, but just watched it burn. With the old man in the middle, how dare the Su family not recognize them? However, I also found out something else. Say it. Su Qianxi and Su Jinghua are not related at all. Su Qianxi walked quickly and suddenly found that her white bag had disappeared. She didn't know when it had happened. Right now, she was penniless. It would take more than half an hour to drive back to the wealthy area of the villa. It was impossible to walk back. More importantly, she had no sense of direction. Su Qianxi was about to go crazy. It was the first time she had felt so annoyed and angry since her rebirth. Was she going to walk back like this? That pair of legs must be broken. Moreover, the phone was in his hand. It was truly a case of no response from the heavens and earth. Walk back to the hot pot restaurant to look for him? She had been walking for more than 10 minutes. If she turned back now, he might have already left. Moreover, she had left on her own just now. Forget it, maybe Uncle Sheng is still at the hot pot restaurant. I'll just take it one step at a time. Walking back the way he came, he found that the low-key but luxurious black Maybach was still parked there. The moment she appeared at the corner of the street, Li Xiqing also looked over. Seeing his cold eyes, her heart suddenly raced. Could it be that he was waiting for her? But when she saw the phone in his hand, she understood. This guy was making a phone call. Angrily walking up, she opened the passenger seat door and got in. Su Qianxi's eyes were full of Li Xiqing's car, and she did not notice that two young girls were looking at her in front of her. Hey, isn't that our campus belle? Damn, where's the concussion? Where's the discomfort? Wait, look, she's coming over and getting in the car. That's a Maybach. It's worth at least 10 million. Hurry, get it. Chapter 150. Su Qianxi did not notice that she was being photographed. After sitting in the car, she saw her cell phone and purse on the seat. She picked them up and found that everything was still there. She was about to open the door and get out. Li Xiqing reached out and held her down. Spitting out a mouthful of white smoke, he said in a low voice, "What are you doing?" "Going home," she said matter-of-factly. Li Xiqing heard that and narrowed his eyes. A vague sense of danger slowly spread in the car. "Are you mad at me?" Su Qianxi was dazed and suddenly felt a bit scared. She seemed to be mad at him, but how could that be? How could she be mad at him? Li Xiqing had said that he liked gentle and sensible women, so she had always been gentle and sensible, hadn't she? But thinking of what she had just done, Su Qianxi felt a bit annoyed. How could she return to the way she used to be? Li Xiqing hated her the most, didn't he? Wait, why did she care about that? She was going to divorce him, wasn't she? It seemed that there was no need to please him anymore, right? She looked up and saw Li Xiqing's ambiguous expression. She slightly lowered her head and did not speak. What should she do? She still did not want him to hate her. That would be enough, right? Seeing Su Qianxi's obvious cowardice, Li Xiqing frowned and felt inexplicably annoyed. This woman was really not cute at all. She could be mad at him. It was not like he was not allowed. He felt that it was boring for her to deliberately soften and please him. He had seen too many women like this. Seat belt. Li Xiqing's voice was a bit impatient. Okay. She obediently put on the seatbelt and became much more obedient. When she got home, she turned on the computer and received a document from Louis Han as expected. She opened it and checked it before replying. After dealing with business, she stretched and inadvertently looked at the main panel. In a group of students, there was a gray profile picture that had never been lit up. Even the name was very simple, L. Opening the chat window, her slender fingers quickly sent over 2 words, "Are you there?" However, there was no response. The next day, she went back to school. However, she did not know whether it was an illusion or not, but she felt that the gazes of the people around her today were strange. Carrying her backpack, she found a seat and sat down. At that moment, she felt that more people were looking at her, and they were all strange. The first class was an introduction to financial engineering. The teacher was a female professor who was known as Abbess Miju. She was already in her 40s, but she still liked to wear a fashionable pink mini skirt and energetic white platform shoes. Coupled with her wrinkled makeup, she became a big attraction in the finance department. The scenery arrived as expected. As soon as he entered, he saw that everyone's eyes were focused in one direction. Su Qianxi. Here. Su Qianxi was confused by the name, but she quickly stood up. Have you recovered? Oh, much better. Thank you for your concern, Professor. In the future, if you ask for leave on your own, it will only make your classmates think that there is something wrong with your style. What do you mean? There was a problem with her style. Why was there a problem with her style? A female classmate looked over and whispered, "You don't know? Everything about you is going viral on the school forum." Then she took out her phone and pushed it in front of her. Chapter 151. Su Qianxi knew it was a clickbait. However, Su Qianxi still couldn't help clicking on it. If she guessed right, the cold campus bell was referring to her. Miju Shirtai glanced at her and snorted coldly. Sit down. Just don't bring your bad habits from your daily life to school and affect other students. A bad habit in daily life? That had a lot of meaning. Su Qianxi looked at Miju coldly and asked, "What do you mean by that?" Before Miju Nun said anything, some boys around her spoke up. Stop pretending. You know what the teacher means. Instead of learning the good stuff, you're doing something stupid. Concussion? I think you're a pervert. Ha ha ha. That's so mean. But well said. I thought she was really cold. I didn't expect that she was only cold to us. She's doing those things in secret. Cold campus bell? She's always been alone. I told you she can't be that clean. The words around her became more and more harsh, and Su Qianxi's face became more and more gloomy. Slapping the table, she warned, "Do you have any proof for saying that?" Proof? Look at it yourself. The forum has proof. A boy threw a phone at her, and there was a picture on it. It was the picture of her sitting in Li Xiqing's car when she went back yesterday. Seeing the picture, Su Qianxi calmed down and smiled sarcastically. This is your proof? The boy who threw the phone at her saw her smile and suddenly became dazed. Blushing, he stammered, "Isn't this enough? Me sitting in my family's car is proof that I'm a prostitute?" Your family's car? The boy was obviously dumbfounded. How is that possible? Everyone knows you're an orphan. This is a Maybach. This model costs at least 10 million. If your family is so rich, why did you have to work to pay for your tuition in high school? Obviously, her background had been investigated by many people. Su Qianxi heard that and sneered. I wonder if you know about Lu Ainan's incident. As he spoke, he tidied up the books on the desk and stuffed them into his bag. Seeing that Su Qianxi was about to leave, Abbess Miju was furious. Su Qianxi, where are you going? Skipping class. She did not look back. Out of sight, out of mind, with such a teacher and students. Out of the classroom, Su Qianxi pretended to be calm, but she soon collapsed. Who was so gossipy to actually talk about her like that? She opened Weibo and searched for Lu Ainan's case. As the news went down, the video and the news about Mrs. Li all disappeared. The rest was all about Lu Ainan. No wonder no one in the school recognized her as one of the protagonists of the Lu Ainan incident. Forget it. There was no lack of gossip in a place like the school. Maybe in 2 days, this matter would be over. However, she had obviously underestimated the influence of such a thing. In less than 2 days, this matter had already risen to the level of gossip news, becoming the headline of all the major news outlets. Captain Lee was sitting in the backyard, playing games on his phone with his glasses on. Suddenly, a message popped up with a striking title: "The campus belle of Kingstown University is suspected to have a mistress. She is an orphan, but she wears designer clothes and is driven to and fro by luxury cars. Io, the female university students nowadays are really messy. Their morals are getting worse by the day." Captain Lee sighed, but soon remembered something and straightened up. "Isn't the campus belle our Qian? Chapter 152. Li Xiqing had just finished the meeting when his phone rang. He clicked it open and saw it was from "Dear Baby Grandpa." Seeing the name, he was speechless. Grandpa must have secretly changed the name on his phone again. After changing the name to Grandpa, he clicked on the message. Reading the content of the news, Li Xiqing's eyes gradually became cold. He picked up the phone and dialed the internal line. Soon, Qingyu came in. "Boss." Li Xiqing threw the phone over. "Take care of it." Qingyu took the phone and suddenly laughed. "What's wrong with these people?" However, she did not say anything and turned to leave. Less than 10 minutes after she left, she came back in, frowning. "Boss, things seem to be a bit troublesome." Li Xiqing looked up from the pile of documents and looked at Qingyu. Qingyu looked embarrassed and said, "There is something new on the internet." "Look." Li Xiqing handed the phone over, and there was another eye-catching title: "Breaking. The campus belle of Kingstown University is promiscuous and has been with several men at the same time." The temperature around Li Xiqing suddenly plummeted, and a dangerous atmosphere quickly spread. Qingyu only felt a chill run from the top of her head to her toes, and she silently shrank back. Clicking on the news, the first picture was the one of Su Qianxi and Luihan seemingly kissing. How could it be? He had clearly deleted that picture from Tang Mingqing's phone. How could there still be one? Frowning, he scrolled down and saw Su Qianxi getting out of a red Renault. It was Luihan's car. Further down, it was Su Qianxi holding Grandpa's arm and smiling. Then, Su Qianxi and Xing Shiming were sitting opposite each other. Su Qianxi and Luihan were talking and laughing in the hospital bed. Su Qianxi and Luihan were sitting opposite each other in the coffee shop. Su Qianxi and Fu Lingbing were standing side by side, clinking glasses and drinking. Looking at their clothes, it was from the high school reunion. Further down, it was a picture of Su Qianxi and Su Jingui eating alone in a restaurant. There was no text description, but all the pictures combined with the title did not need any explanation. All of this was enough for everyone to imagine a blockbuster movie about a delinquent college student who was desperate for money. However, what bothered him was that if he had not been supervising her all the time, it would have been impossible to collect so many photos like this. Li Xiqing narrowed his eyes. Who had been following Su Qianxi? Standing up, he took his coat from the tripod and walked out. Find the source of the picture as soon as possible. The person behind this had obviously been plotting this for a long time. He wanted to see who was so bold. Qingyu was shocked. Yes. As soon as the new news came out, the posts that had been cooling down in the school forum were immediately pushed up again. Everyone was gossiping about the romantic history of the campus belle. Su Qianxi suddenly became a popular figure in the school. It was a public elective class in the afternoon. She never had the habit of being late, so she arrived at the classroom 5 minutes before the class started. Although she had attracted a lot of attention along the way, she had become accustomed to such gazes over the past few days. She didn't care and just sat in the classroom. However, in less than 2 minutes, the principal came to the door of the classroom and said to Su Qianxi, "Student, come out for a second." Seeing this scene, someone gloated and shouted, "The promiscuous goddess is going to be fired." Chapter 153. Seeing this scene, someone gloated and shouted, "The promiscuous goddess is going to be fired. The news is out. How can such a person stay on campus? Kingstown University cannot afford to lose face like this. Now everyone is talking about the school's spirit. It would be strange if the school would let her stay." The discussions around them continued to ring out. Su Qianxi's heart sank. Putting down the book in her hand, she was about to get up when she heard the principal say, "Put your books away and follow me to the principal's office." Hearing that, there was an even greater uproar. Feeling the gloating gazes around her, Su Qianxi felt a bit cold. Following the principal all the way, she saw that the principal was not going to the principal's office but directly took her downstairs. "President Wang, isn't the principal's office upstairs?" President Wang did not pay attention to her and took her directly to the playground. Su Qianxi glanced over and saw a crowd of people. A series of interview and filming equipment were all available. Su Qianxi stopped, but those people did not intend to let her go and rushed forward. "Miss Su, wait a minute. Don't go, wait a minute." Su Qianxi would not listen to them. She immediately turned around and wanted to escape. You can't reason with such nosy reporters. This kind of people would only try to dig what they wanted and would never believe her words and explanations. In that case, she might as well not face them. However, President Wang had tried so hard to bring her here. How could he let her go? Quickly blocking her way, President Wang's expression was not very good. "Miss Su, no matter what, I have to give Kingstown University an answer. We cannot let the whole campus be affected because of your style." Hearing that, Su Qianxi was so angry that she laughed. "My style problem? President Wang, have you tried to find out the truth? Have you asked me what is going on?" As a teacher, following the crowd, the principal of Kingstown University is nothing more than this. Headmaster Wang's expression turned even uglier. He pushed her, forcing her to face the reporters who were constantly crowding around them. Those reporters were even more excited, wanting to put the microphone in his mouth and push him forward. Su Qianxi covered her face, not letting them take pictures, but there was always a hand grabbing her hand, and the camera kept shining on her face. "This is a live broadcast. I'm Wang Qinghua, the principal of Kingstown University. I hereby announce that this female student's behavior is improper. She has brought shame to the university and her classmates. She will be expelled. From today on, she has nothing to do with the university." Principal Wang's words made the surrounding reporters even more excited. "Miss Su, do you have anything to explain? Miss Su, I heard that you have a relationship with the old chairman of the Li Financial Group. Is that true? Miss Su, how many men are you dating at the same time? Can you tell us?" Su Qianxi was almost blinded by the flashing lights. Feeling dizzy, the only thing that echoed in her head was "Miss Su, Miss Su, I." Beep beep, the sound of a car horn could be heard. Everyone stopped what they were doing and turned to look behind them. Hearing the whistle, Su Qianxi felt vaguely familiar. However, there was no time to think about it. Seeing that they were all distracted, she quietly turned and wanted to slip away. "Catch her. She wants to run." Someone shouted, and all the attention was returned to Su Qianxi. Chapter 154. Miss Su, why do you want to run? Do you have a guilty conscience? Miss Su, do you really not have anything to say? Miss Su. Su Qianxi was annoyed by the way they kept calling her Miss Su. Turning around, she yelled, "You guys are so annoying. You don't believe me when I tell you the truth. Why do you have to force me to say that I'm a sugar daddy?" The reporters were silent for a second, but then they started to ask questions like crazy. "Are you admitting that you're a sugar daddy? Miss Su, does your family know that you're so open? I heard that your sugar daddy is the president of SG Enterprise, right?" Su Qianxi couldn't take it anymore and sneered, "Do you want to know the truth?" The reporters immediately quieted down, holding their breath, waiting for the next headline. "The truth is that the car I got in was my husband's car, and the sugar daddy you've been talking about is Li Xicheng. Go ask him if you can." Then she turned around and walked away. However, these reporters were not to be trifled with. They immediately surrounded her, making it impossible for her to escape. "Mr. Li is married. Don't you think it's shameless of you to say that? Although Mr. Li never appears in public, he is known for his integrity. Don't you think it's a slap in the face for you to say that? Mr. Li would never keep a college girl as a sugar daddy. Miss Su, while serving the sugar daddy, you are fantasizing about Mr. Li. Is that right?" At the same time, Weibo posted, "Campus Belle admits being a sugar daddy and fantasizes about Li Xicheng." Su Qianxi finally saw what gossip was and what reporters were. She should not have said anything. The more she said, the more mistakes she would make. She shut her mouth and tried to squeeze out, but it was a waste of effort. Beep, beep. The whistle was louder and quieter than before. It was almost right in front of them. Many people were startled by the sudden loud whistle and quickly turned around, only to see a flashy and low-key black Maybach stop behind them. Su Qianxi looked at the car in disbelief. Wow, one of Beauty Su's rumored boyfriends. Someone shouted, and the reporters immediately changed their target and swarmed toward the black Maybach. The front passenger door was quickly opened. The flashing lights kept flashing, reflecting on the bright car, dazzling everyone's eyes. The car door opened, and a long and powerful leg stepped out. A top-notch handmade blue and black striped suit appeared in front of everyone. As soon as he saw the clothes, he knew it was extraordinary. Many reporters with good eyesight quickly took a few close-up shots of the material. There was even a flamer who posted on Weibo on the spot with the words, "Breaking news. The school belle's sugar daddy is wearing luxurious clothes and a luxurious car. His net worth is estimated to be over 100 million. But when the man in the car completely appeared in front of everyone, there was silence again. The man's figure was tall and straight, his face expressionless. Her almond-shaped eyes were bone-chilling and the aura around her was as cold as ice. Cold. But in the eyes of the reporters, there was a flame of restlessness. However, no one dared to speak first. Everyone knew that Mr. Li had a bad temper. There was silence for 1 second, 2 seconds. Finally, a female reporter couldn't help but ask, "Mr. Li, what are you doing here?" Chapter 155. No one had expected that Li Xicheng would answer. No one had expected him to answer like that. What kind of answer was that? Picking up his wife from class? This was a university. Could it be that his wife was a college student? No, that was impossible. Because she was a teacher here. Everyone was dumbfounded, looking at Li Xicheng. Li Xicheng walked straight toward Su Qianxi with his long legs, looking tall and handsome. What was going on? Li Xicheng, who had always stayed away from women, was walking toward this flirtatious campus belle. What kind of joke was that? Everyone suddenly felt that their brain circuits were not enough. Seeing Li Xicheng walking toward her, Su Qianxi was also dumbfounded. Li Xicheng's eyes were deep as he stopped in front of her. Is class over? His words were short, and his voice was low. But very clear. Yes, Li Xicheng was talking to Su Qianxi. The breaking news made the reporters excited. Their hands seemed to be equipped with motors as they kept taking pictures. One reporter even asked, "Mr. Li, you said you are here to pick up your wife. May I ask who your wife is? Is she a teacher at Kingstown University?" Mr. Li Xicheng did not plan to answer them. Seeing Su Qianxi's dumbfounded face, he was displeased. Are you mute? Su Qianxi blinked, nodded, and then shook her head. What do you mean? I was supposed to be in class, but I was called out. By who? Him. Su Qianxi pointed at President Wang. Principal Wang only felt Li Xicheng's threatening gaze and immediately felt a chill run down his spine. Li Xicheng narrowed his eyes, looking confused and questioning, why? He wants to expel me and kick me out of the university. Su Qianxi felt like a child who was complaining. After seeing Li Xicheng, she felt indescribably safe. The pressure around Li Xicheng was even lower as he asked again, why? However, this time, he was not asking Su Qianxi, but President Wang. Facing the gazes from all directions, Headmaster Wang braced himself and said, "This female student's style and values are not right. She has a rotten private life and has brought shame to the university. Kingstown University cannot afford to keep such a student." Hearing the accusations, Li Xicheng thought for a while, but his eyes became colder. Arching an eyebrow, he asked, "How come I didn't know about her private life?" From the moment they got married until now, other than the first day, she had always been clean. Principal Wang, however, did not know this. When he heard his question, he thought that he was curious and hurriedly explained, "Usually, these kinds of girls are best at deceiving people with their pure and innocent appearance. In reality, they are with several people at the same time. If not, how can they survive? You are talking nonsense." Su Qianxi was furious. He actually said it as if it was the truth. It was too disgusting. Ha! Li Xicheng chuckled and looked at President Wang with a sharp gaze. "You know it better than I do." President Wang did not feel that he was in trouble and said matter-of-factly, "Of course. I have seen a lot of girls like this." "Mr. Li, do you know this campus belle?" a reporter asked, trembling. "May I ask, what is your relationship?" You're tuning into the Biyao's Wuxia Chronicles YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.